What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Week 11 version of the Friday with Addison AMA afternoon live stream. Welcome in, everybody. Hopefully, everybody had a fantastic week. Hopefully, you didn't play Saquon Barkley last night, or you have Saquon Barkley. Hopefully, you have Saquon Barkley. He's been phenomenal and was just even more so last night. There was a clip that I saw. I think ESPN posted it like on TikTok or something of like all these Eagles fans in the background when they were interviewing Saquon on the sideline, where they were chanting "Thank you, Giants" or something like that. So pretty funny. But welcome in, everybody, to the AMA live stream. Toronto Dave, Friday AMAs, baby. Let's go. Before I get into the actual questions, though, because there's already people in here, there should be a poll on there in like the chat. It's just something that I just threw out. It's been something that's been on my head, in my brain for like basically 2 months, essentially since like the start of the year, that I have potentially an interest in creating like it wouldn't be Patreon, but that's like the closest thing that I can compare it to, is like a Patreon style thing where I would make some extra dynasty rankings, some rookie rankings. We'd have a Discord. Maybe I could create a thing that shows like my top buys, my top sells right now. I did think too that in a sense there would be like a trade calculator, but not really a trade calculator. Like in the rankings, it would basically show here's what it would cost to get that player for me to buy that player in terms of picks. And then that would be able to work. So like, for example, if Jamar Chase costs 4 first-round picks, then Kenneth Walker costs 2 and Garrett Wilson costs 2, throw those 2 together. And then you know that, hey, for me, it would probably take like Garrett Wilson and Kenneth Walker in order to get Jamar Chase, kind of thing, and equal out the value and that sort of thing. That's probably not the case, but that was an example. So the poll's up there. If you guys wanted to vote on it, go for it. I'm not even sure if I want to do it yet, but I was gauging interest. So that's my little quick 2-minute thing before we get into the comments. But let's get into the comments with Vince. My favorite content of the week. Don't think I'll make the stream today. Oh, appreciate you though, Vince, for getting in here bright and early this morning. Had a hyperactive week though, and wanted to lock in on a few trades and competing teams to catch up on the playback later on. Team 1, 12/9 Superflex tight end premium sent Brian Thomas Jr. and a 4th for AJ Brown. I absolutely love that. I think it's funny that he was like, yeah, I'll do it if you add in a 4th, and then I'll give you AJ Brown. Love that. Sent Njoku and Coker for Kelsey. That's not bad. The production is there. Still have Pitts at tight end and was already 30 points forward to start, despite losing Nico for 5 weeks. Get Nico back this week. Love to see it. Team 2, 12/11 Superflex tight end premium sent London and Swift for Lamb. Holy crap. Excellent buy low on CD Lamb. Sent Tillman, Estime, and a 3rd for Jacobs and a 4th. Don't mind that. Wanted to upgrade off Swift regardless. This move felt like sending stuff for an RB2. Yeah, I don't mind that. I honestly, all those trades are from, ooh, I like that, too. I really, really like that on the meter. Don't dislike or don't hate any of them. They're all, I would give it a solid 6 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10 on those deals. So well done, Vince. Well done. And have a great weekend yourself. Joseph, hey, Addison, Joe back here again. Squad is still the same from last week. Haven't made any moves just yet, but looking to make a move. So we've got Burrow, Mahomes. Yep. Kittle and Ferguson, Komet, and the tight end premium. Was thinking maybe moving Shakir, Fant, and a late 1st for Pickens and an early 2nd to a rebuilding team. Thoughts on any other moves? I know we talked about a few vets for younger guys who can produce now, but trying to figure out direction of the team. At 7-3, tied for 2nd. So it is Superflex with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11 starters. Excellent. I love the idea for Pickens. I feel like, especially if you get the 2nd round pick attached, that basically I think negates Khalil Shakir. So a 1st and Noah Fant for George Pickens, I think is fantastic. So if you can get that deal done, that would be great. Even if it was just, Fant and a 1st for Pickens, you don't do the Shakir in the 2nd, or if it was Shakir and a 1st for Pickens, I'd be fine with that too. And don't do Fant in the 2nd. Or if you get this whole deal done as is right now, that would be fantastic. The only other things that I look at when I'm looking at your team, so I was scripting out the playoff and trade deadline, like dynasty deadline buys and sells before the before deadlines. I was scripting it out for next week. Najee is going to be on the sell list because his schedule is really, really rough for the remainder of the year. So that's the only thing that maybe you could look at. And Kareem Hunt, I would also sell him too. So those two in particular, I think would be if you can get a different running back, or if you can trade them for picks and then move one of your wide receivers for a running back, like move Devonta Adams for a running back or Christian Watson for a running back, somebody like that. I don't know if you can get. Depends on who else is in your league that wants Devonta Adams or wants Christian Watson or wants Najee or something like that. What other running backs you could possibly get, but maybe somebody like a Tyrone Tracy, maybe a probably not Chase Brown at this point. It would depend, but those would be that's kind of like the where I see that you could potentially also make a move is try to upgrade your RB2 spot or your RB3 spot with Aaron Jones in there too. Sell Kareem Hunt before his value completely falls off the face of the earth, and go buy George Pickens as well. So I like where you're going. I like where you're headed. And I definitely think that you're a contending team that's probably going to make some noise in the playoffs, especially if we can make just a couple tweaks to the roster. Peter, happy Friday. Trade deadline is this week. Have any under-the-radar guys that you're targeting for rebuilders as throw-ins or for late draft picks? Already have Benson. Tried for JT Sanders, but no dice. JT Sanders would have been it. Love JT Sanders. If you're looking at the wide receiver position, I would be interested in where I just had his name, but now I don't remember what his name was as I was trying to look through this whole entire list. Where did he go? I'm on KTC rankings, just trying to find, because I was like, I read under the radar guys, and like immediately his name popped up in my head, and now I can't remember it because I read the rest of it. Okay, hopefully that comes back to me later. Trey Benson is definitely great. Jalen Wright, I think, also fits into that category if you're looking for a running back. Kind of also like Trey Benson, but also kind of not. Maybe Marshawn Lloyd. Those are those two, I think, in particular, especially Jalen Wright. Tyjae Spears, I think, would be interesting too. Again, these are all running backs. JT Sanders would be great. Ben Sinnott, if you can still kind of buy into him, would be fun. And God, this wide receiver is really annoying the crap out of me. He immediately went into my head. Is he that undervalued on KTC? Maybe I just didn't scroll down to him. Maybe I'm in the 100s. Jacob Cowing. That's an interesting one. Hopefully it comes back to me, or hopefully I find his name, or we talk about him later on or something like that, or like it hits me on who that player actually was. Anyway, I haven't. My mind right now is in more like playoff mode, not so much rebuild mode right now, and I haven't really thought enough about like lower level rebuilding type trade targets. Benson, Wright, Tyjae Spears, Marshawn Lloyd, JT Sanders would have been great. Ben Sinnott would also be really good too. You could also look at, don't forget about JJ McCarthy. He's not cheap or really under the radar, but could be another interesting guy that you could maybe look into buying. And I would also potentially maybe throw out Bryce Young. He hasn't looked horrible. And he's made some pretty big time throws. He kind of there's been shades of him back at Alabama again. So it's been kind of fun to see him kind of improve a little bit over the past couple of weeks. So I'm Michael Penix maybe as well, but I think Penix's value is a little too high right now. So a list of names, not a fantastic list of names, I think, but hopefully that helps, Peter. Mike, good afternoon, Addison. Would you trade Xavier Worthy into 27 first for George Pickens? Absolutely, in a heartbeat. Xavier Worthy is a player that I would love to get off of right now, and especially if you can move him over for George Pickens. You have to add the 27 first, but at least that's in a few years from now. So yeah, give me George Pickens on that one. Spoiler alert for videos next week again for deadline and playoff buys. George Pickens in the buy video. Also have an offer sent to me of Puka for Xavier Worthy in the current 102. Would like to get both of those players, but obviously can't do both involving Worthy. Man, I like that one too. Is there? Can you do both? But can you switch Worthy out with one of them? You know, maybe it's not the 102 and Worthy for Puka, but it's 102 and a second, or 102 and another wide receiver that you have, or the same thing with George Pickens. I'd love to do both of them. If I had to pick one, I would probably do the George Pickens ones first and then keep the 1.02, because then you probably at least are getting yourself Genty or Tet, or Luther Burden or somebody like that with that 1.02, 1.03 pick if it ends up being 103. That is still another like elite wide receiver that's probably going to come in being valued more than George Pickens, but not as much as Puka Nacua, but could be an ascending wide receiver talent. Especially if it's like Tet. Tet's probably going to come in as a top 15 dynasty wide receiver, maybe top 12, depending on his combine and his landing spot. So I would rather keep that pick than send it for Puka if you can only pick one of these two. I would do this trade for Puka, but if it's between this and the George Pickens one with how you use Xavier Worthy, I'd rather use the George Pickens one. YWL in a 12-10 Superflex half PPR, 6 point per touchdown, middle of the pack. Will probably sneak into the playoffs, but team is generally young. Give Mahomes, get JJ McCarthy 101, or give Mahomes in a second, get Bryce 102 and a 2027 first. Ooh. I like of the two deals, I like the JJ McCarthy one better because you're not also adding a 25 second. The 101 is better than the 102, obviously. And I would probably take McCarthy over Bryce in a 27 first. My camera needs to figure out what it's doing. But essentially, it would be like McCarthy in a 25 second for Bryce Young in a 27 first. I think I would take McCarthy there. And you get obviously the 101 instead of the 102, if that's how these picks end up staying. So of the two deals, the JJ McCarthy one I think is better, but would I give Patrick Mahomes for that? I don't know if I would. I don't know. You took the Puka trade. Nice, Mike. You have the 101 as well. All right, good deal. I mean, I like the Puka one as well. A big time Puka fan. Would I do this deal with Patrick Mahomes? Probably. I think no, I don't think I would. I'm coming back on it. I don't think I would give up Mahomes for the 101 and JJ McCarthy. It's definitely a very strong offer. Obviously, I just sat and thought about it for a solid 30 seconds there, live. But I think I would rather just keep Patrick Mahomes for now, and hope that he kind of goes back into being Patrick Mahomes. Because I think that's the thing with Mahomes is his production is so weird right now, but we know how fantastic he is. Like, we're not that far removed from him throwing for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. And, we're not even that far removed from 2022 was another fantastic year as well. And kind of half of 2023 was really good too. Like in 2022, he threw 5,300 yards and 41 touchdowns. And then last year threw for 4,227. So like, he's still not a bad quarterback. This year, I think he's just been a little bit more rough. They need another wide receiver because Xavier Worthy's not it. And obviously they don't have Rashee Rice. But they've been so successful on the ground and their defense is good too. So it's kind of a weird situation for Mahomes. I think I would still keep him over JJ McCarthy in the 101, but it is close. It's very, very close. And then give Nico in a second, get Pickens Brooks in a first. I'm taking Nico Collins there. That one's not as close. I still think Nico Collins is super, super, super elite. That I would just rather have him than that entire package, let alone adding a second round pick. What is the minimum you would liquidate CMC for in a 12-team start 9 league? Is being stingy, need to cut the points, but don't want to sell just to sell. If you could get a playoff first and something good on top of that, not like it wouldn't be 2 firsts, but a first and a second, a first and some other kind of rebuilding ish piece, of first and a young upside wide receiver, something along those lines would be. I don't think I would sell CMC straight up for, the person who's currently in 3rd or 4th place. If they finish in that position, then it's the 109, 110, because they were hoping that CMC would put them over the edge. I don't think I would sell for just that one individual first, but if it was that first and something else that's solid, then I would do it. If you're just trying to move off of CMC's points for the betterment of your team and for the betterment of your first round pick next year. Finalize the trade been working for a couple weeks. 12-team Superflex rebuild, gave up AJ Brown and Swift for 2 firsts and Rashee Rice. That's all I needed to see, Jamie. That's all I needed to see. You essentially got a first round pick for DeAndre Swift, and you somehow traded down from AJ Brown for Rashee Rice and another first round pick. As a rebuilding team, that is phenomenal. This is fantastic, dude. I don't know. There's nothing really else to say. That's a phenomenal deal, Jamie. More people should be trying to do stuff like this if you're rebuilding. Superflex 10 team, my 3 and 7 team, I traded Bijan, JSN, Bryce Young, 2 seconds for nothing. You didn't get anything back whatsoever. Maybe Mike is in the chat and we can come back to that. Hunter Henry or Dawson Knox this week? I'm going with Hunter Henry. And I have Paulson's rankings pulled up. Dalton Kincaid was announced out, I believe. I thought I saw that notification come through before I went live. Dalton Kincaid will not play against the Chiefs, but T. Higgins is expected to play. But I would play Hunter Henry still. Hunter Henry is in here at tight end 15. Dawson Knox is in here at tight end 20. I'm not sure if that's... I'd imagine that is without Dalton Kincaid, because Kincaid is not in the rankings in here for Paulson, but I trust Hunter Henry a little bit more, and he's more of a PPR kind of guy as well. And Dawson Knox is more of a touchdown guy, but Henry can also score. So I'd play Hunter Henry. Mike, if you have the rest of that deal, I can pull it back up. We can talk about it. Bryant, 12-man Superflex PPR. Is Waddle worth a mid to late first, or should I just keep the pick? Thank you. I think as of right now, I think he is worth a first, but I don't know if I would pay that right now. I feel like there's just a little bit more security and liquidity with that first round pick than paying it for Jalen Waddle right now, who I do expect Jalen Waddle to bounce back at some point. I mean, I think that they're like the prototypical Dolphins explosion game has to come at some point. Maybe it comes this week against the Raiders, or maybe that's just an Achane game because the Raiders' run defense is so bad. But I think the Dolphins week has to come at some point where Tyreek has a long touchdown and gets more involved, where Waddle maybe has a long touchdown. He caught a couple of good passes in the first drive last week and then was nixed from the game plan for the remainder of the game, which was frustrating. But I do think that Jalen Waddle's value will return. I just don't know if I'm paying a first round pick for it right now. I just feel like the first is just so much safer. Everybody in your league is going to want a first. Not everybody in your league is going to want a Jalen Waddle. So I would just keep the first round pick for now. How do you feel about the top 10 wide receivers and running backs in this year's rookie draft versus last year? Loaded up on rookie wide receivers last year, so ideally need running backs, but obviously wide receivers hold more value long term. This year's rookie draft, the wide receiver position seems to be almost as strong at the top. I'd say like almost because Tet is a very, very good prospect. He would probably, I don't know if he's a better prospect than Marv and or Neighbors, but he's up there. I think he's a better prospect than Odunze was. So he would have been a top 3 guy last year. Burden, I think, would have been, I think he's similar to Remo Odunze. So he would have been, I mean, if all 5 of them were in the same class, that's your top 5 right there. In kind of, I think it would have been Marv, Neighbors, Tet, Burden, Odunze, I think would be, or Odunze, Burden, maybe. They switch back and forth. That would be your top 5, though. And then the rest of the wide receivers for 2025, they look all right. Ibuka looks pretty solid. There's a couple other wide receivers that I'm blanking on who their names are right now, but you got Travis Hunter in there, depending on what he's going to end up being, I guess. If he's going to play corner or wide receiver, or he's going to be some hybrid, or if he's like Devin Hester, I don't know. So that's interesting too. But I think the wide receivers is about on par. The running backs is definitely not as good. Genty is probably far and away the best running back prospect in both classes. But then after that, the 2025 class is really weak at the running back position. I don't know if there's really anybody that really sticks out as the clear RB2. There's that Iowa kid. But I mean, it's just like everybody was kind of just not good. This year, this class is so weird in that it has a lot of 4th-year guys who end up being, they had hype earlier in their careers, then they hit a snag somewhere where they got hurt or they lost production or both, or then some of them, or a lot of them, transferred. They were trying to find better production somewhere else, and then they haven't really found it, or they found it in spurts, and it's just really weird. So I don't think that the running back class is really anything strong this year past Genty. So it's kind of could be similar to what the running back class was last year after Jonathan Brooks, where it was like maybe Trey Benson, maybe it was somebody else, maybe it was, that whole kind of thing. Like maybe it's Jalen Wright if he finds a good location. Maybe it's Marshawn Lloyd if he finds a good location. Maybe it's Blake Corum if he finds a good location. That's how I feel about running backs. I think the classes I think are very, very similar. But we don't have a Brock Bowers in this class. We don't even have a JT Sanders, I don't think, in this class. And the quarterbacks are definitely worse this year too. So this class just overall, I think, is worse than last year. Unfortunate. TGIF, Ryan, enjoyed the trade show video yesterday. What are your thoughts on going out and buying Rachaad White right now, giving up a second and any running back on a 53? Sounds pretty good to me. I think Rachaad White is also going to be on the deadline buys video, just because he seems so cheap right now for the production that you can get over the remainder of the year with the schedule that he has. So I'd give up if you're a playoff contending team, and that's like 209, 210, 211. Hopefully it's a 212. I'd pay that for Rachaad White. And if you've got to throw in an extra guy at the running back position just to do it, then go ahead and do it. There's probably, like, I wouldn't give up, Jalen Wright and a second, or Blake Corum in a second, or Lloyd in a second. But if it's Keaton Mitchell in a second, then sure. If it's Dylan Labe in a second, or these are just the names that pop up in my head. But somebody like that, where it's more of like an RB3 kind of guy than like a backup good handcuff, then yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Feel like I just have to ride Hunt for the rest of the season. Don't know if anyone will bite at this point with Pacheco coming back. Yeah. I mean, I understand that one too. He didn't really cost you much. So it's more about, could you have cashed out on that ROI than, completely just losing him forever. And because he was just a waiver wire ad for you, you only really spent fab. So he was just that he did his job. He came in for you, was fantastic, and then he fades back off into nothingness again. So it's just more, could you have gotten a greater ROI on that, and while also still have gotten the production that he had given you? It was so for everybody else out there, if you still have Kareem Hunt, I'd be interested in seeing what you can get for him. Even if you're selling him to another contender, which you're probably only going to sell him to another contender. But I don't expect his end of year to be anything fantastic. So you probably have maybe another week, maybe 2. 2's really a stretch, I think. But like one more week of Kareem Hunt if you could sell him for a big time ROI, even just a second. I mean, you got the production from him and a second round pick from him off the waiver wire. That's a dream come true. But if you're stuck with him, then you're stuck with him, and that's totally fine as well. I have 4 first rounders, 3 of which could be top 4 or 5. I like the 3 top 4 or 5. You're again, like I said, you're going to get probably 2 or 3 of Tet, Burden, and Genty. Maybe Ibuka or somebody else. But yeah, I think at the top, the class looks still really strong. It's where when we get to probably like 7 or 8 that I kind of like lose confidence. At least as of right now. Still, stuff could still change. Combine could still change some things. Would you hold 3 quarterbacks and Danny Dimes, or just move one of these star quarterbacks? I would rather just hold all 3 quarterbacks than have to rely on Daniel Jones as your QB3. Puka trade. Yep. Thoughts on buying Bryce Young, A-Rich for a second potentially? I don't think I would buy Bryce Young for a second. Anthony Richardson, I think, is a fine buy for a second round pick right now. Bryce Young, I know I just said earlier in the stream that, you know, he could be a guy that you could go after and target for cheap, but I don't think a second round pick for Bryce is cheap. I think a second round pick for A-Rich is fine. I'm still not really, really like in love with it, but I'd rather buy Bryce Young for thirds than and take the shot there than a second round pick. But I'm fine with A-Rich because at least he's shown some fantasy upside. And it seems like the team is slightly more invested into Richardson still than Carolina might be into Bryce Young at this point. Because at least Richardson has the head coach that drafted him still as his head coach, whereas Bryce Young, like Canales, has no ties to Bryce Young whatsoever. Let's see. Connor needs a little luck this week. Team is number 1 in started value on Dynasty Daddy, but I'm 8-12 and facing the 9-11 team competing for the last playoff spot. Hurt me last night. Oh, I'm sorry. D-Hop or DJ Moore for the last flex. I would go with DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think you can play DJ Moore whatsoever. He's had basically no ceiling. I mean, he had like that one game against Carolina, but that's also against Carolina. D-Hop has a really tough matchup too. The Buffalo Bills pass defense has been solid, but I think if this is going to end up being maybe more of a high scoring game, that Hopkins can maybe find the end zone, can at least be a PPR kind of guy for you. I think that I think his floor is DJ Moore, and he has the ability to do a lot more. If you want Paulson's backup rankings on that, where's Hopkins? Hopkins is the wide receiver 26 in Paulson's rankings, and DJ Moore is the wide receiver 33. They're separated by over 2 PPR fantasy points of projection. So, I mean, he's basically, yeah. They're kind of similar in terms of the receiving and targets. Hopkins has a little bit more yardage on his receptions and a much better projection for a touchdown, according to Paulson. So, which aligns with my overall thinking for him against Buffalo. So I'd play DeAndre Hopkins and swing for the fences, hopefully with him. Good luck to you, Connor. Theo, what's up, my man? Hope everything's going well. Philip traded JSN in a 25 first for McBride and a 25 second. I love that so much. Kind of a wash on the pick. Not really a wash, but kind of ish to where McBride, especially in an extra tight end premium over Jackson Smith and Jigba. This is a perfect trade. Trey McBride for sure. Now trying to trade McBride for a high-end wide receiver. I don't mind it. I mean, it's all stepping stones, right? You have Bowers already and McBride. So maybe it could be beneficial just to have both on your roster. But yeah, if you could trade McBride away for another top 12 wide receiver, then you have Amon-Ra, Puka, and that wide receiver, Brock Bowers is your starter. Hurts, Mahomes, Mays in the making, McCarthy's in the making. Then you just need to figure out your running back position. You're competing, man. You're back in it. But you build teams tremendously, Philip. So I trust and believe in everything that you're doing. Is it time to buy Caleb Williams in a 12-team super flex? Caleb Williams owner would do it straight up for Baker Mayfield. Wow. Honestly, at this point, it feels like you could probably get Caleb plus something for Baker, or maybe you could work out a slightly bigger trade to where maybe you're upgrading a little bit somewhere else if that guy really wants Baker Mayfield. But yeah, I do think that right now is a good time to buy Caleb. I would still, this feels like if you were competing, like you were in it, you are a top 3, top 2 team. I would not trade Baker Mayfield for Caleb Williams right now. I think that would hurt your playoff chances and your championship hopes, because I don't think Caleb Williams is going to all of a sudden like correct himself for the second half of the season. And Baker Mayfield's schedule is phenomenal. So if you were like a top 2, top 3 team with hardcore championship hopes, I would not trade Baker for Caleb Williams. But if you're basically anybody else, I would take Caleb Williams over Baker Mayfield. So, yeah, I think, and I think now is a good time to buy Caleb too, because he's been playing horribly. There's the rumors that he's going to get benched, but they have a new offensive coordinator, or at least a new play caller coming in right now. So maybe things change, and then maybe there's hope for the future for whoever they end up hiring later on next offseason. Traded Brooks in a 27-second for Waddle in a 25-second. I panicked on Brooks. Thoughts? I don't think you panic. I mean, I would take Jalen Waddle over Jonathan Brooks straight up. So you got the better asset for Dynasty. You got a second-round pick that's 2 years earlier, and you got a third. I don't think you really panicked on Jonathan Brooks. I think you just made a smart Dynasty move. I like this a lot, Oscar. Captain Joe King, huge fan of the show. Already a sub. Appreciate you, man. Start 2 between Devontae, Pickens, and Hopkins. Thank you. I had scary Terry on my lineup, which was locked up by a rookie corner. Still mad. We're at the point where we just need to stop playing wide receivers against the Eagles. I actually bet McLaurin's under last night and hit on that one. So don't play people against the Eagles. They're really good. Running backs, maybe. Brian Robinson had an okay day. Eckler had a phenomenal day. If you had to combine those two into one workhorse, it would have been good. But I think there's only certain running backs that can even fit that mold, that can do both of those things in one. Anyway, I would play George Pickens 100%. He gets the Baltimore Ravens. He's done well against the Ravens in the past, and now he is in the best situation in his career against a really, really bad really bad Baltimore secondary. So Pickens is the easy play here. And then I would go Hopkins or Devontae. Isn't it wild we're at this point? Like, imagine like 5 years ago being like, who do I start between Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins? And they'd be like, dude, your team must be insanely good. And now we're at like, oh, you got to start one of Devontae or Hopkins. I'd go with Devontae Adams against the Colts. Paulson has him ranked as wide receiver 13. I'm fine going back to the well with Adams, and maybe Rodgers is really mad after their Cardinals performance, and he just comes out there at home and he's like, you know what, screw it, we're just gonna murk the Colts. So give me Pickens for sure. Devontae Adams is a 2. Who wins, Mike Tyson or Jake Paul? Tyson, easily. This is so dumb. I think Mike Tyson's gonna win this pretty easily. Made nice duo of trade. I also don't care ultimately. That's my second thing on that, Jamie, is I'd really honestly just not care. But I think Mike Tyson wins. Made nice duo of trades in a 2 tight end late first for 2 tight end premium. Late first for Njoku and early second. I like that. Then flip the second for Devonta Smith. Oh, flip the second Devonta Smith plus B-Rob for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Late first for Njoku in a second. That's a phenomenal deal. Then flipped the second Devonta Smith and Brian Robinson for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those are phenomenal deals. It's not just a nice duo of trades. It's a phenomenal duo of trades, Connor. Well done, man. And a 2 tight end premium, getting David Njoku. And then, so you basically traded Devonta Smith, Brian Robinson, and your late first for Amon-Ra St. Brown and David Njoku. Well done, man. Well done. Mike, 1 quarterback PPR league, non-tight end premium. What do we do with Dalton Kincaid? I'm a competitive team. Thoughts on trading Kincaid? 2 seconds for Travis Kelce and Mike Evans. I don't hate that. Moving Kincaid over to Kelce, I think it's totally fine as a contender. 2 seconds for Mike Evans, totally fine again as a contender. Of course, these are 1 quarterback late seconds too, so they're not as valuable as Superflex late seconds. So, yeah, I'll take Travis Kelce and Mike Evans on this one. I think this is a good way to push your chips in for a championship without hurting your future, your longevity of your team, and just go win a championship, man. Take that and take Kelce and Evans. I traded Deontay and Freiermuth for Brian Robinson to secure my RB5 spot. My only tight ends are after the deadline will be Kittle and Jonnu. Is this enough? I think that's definitely enough. I mean, Kittle himself might be completely fine. But Jonnu's been getting a little bit of work. He's not overly fantastic. I don't think he's had over 9 or 10 PPR points in a few weeks. Maybe he scored a touchdown once. I can't remember though. But I mean, you got that Brian Robinson, I think, is the win. And then you're just going to rely on Kittle, who is currently, I think, the tight end one. So I think you're pretty fine for the playoffs. Happy Friday, Addison. Happy Friday, B. Toldy. Rebuilding squad received this offer in a 12-team Superflex Dynasty. Give Herbert, JSN 2 mid to late 25 firsts and get back Caleb, Keon Coleman, the 101, and a third-round pick. Would also have the 102. So you're the 102. You're trading for the 1.01. I like it. I like it. Herbert and Caleb. Camera. There we go. I would not do it. I would keep the Justin Herbert side on this one. I think as of right now, I would take Herbert over Caleb Williams, or at least they're close enough that they're a wash. I would take JSN over Keon Coleman, and I would take the 101 over 2 mid. That depends on where the first actually land. But if there's any chance of them being mid, or one of them has a chance to maybe not make the playoffs, then I think that skews over towards the first round picks. Or if they're both mid, like 107, 108, that's kind of mid to late. I think I'd rather still, as a rebuilding squad, I think it might just be better just to have the 2 unknown picks and see where they end up than the 101, especially when the rest of the deal, I think, still skews towards your side. So I would take Justin Herbert, JSN, and the 2 first in this one. And then you have the 1.02 incoming from your own pick. So yeah, I think if JSN and Coleman weren't in it, I'd like it a little bit more. Or if I really don't care about the third whatsoever. Remove one of the first, it would be a smash on your side. Or make that third a 25-second as well would be probably a minimum how I would have to change it to make me accept it. Oh, yeah. Yep. Mike's just continue to win that trade. There we go. I gotta go back up. Philip, trade McBride for either AJ Brown, London, Garrett Wilson. Rank them in order for my team construction. I would probably. I mean, honestly, I would take any of them. I think AJ Brown's phenomenal. Obviously, London is really good. Garrett Wilson's really good. I think my ranking would go AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Drake London. Or if you want London instead of Wilson, because at least we know that Cousins is going to be on the team for a little bit, and we know what their next plan at quarterback is in terms of Penix, and we don't really know what post Rodgers is. That's totally fine by me too, if London and Garrett Wilson are a wash. But I think AJ Brown is definitely the best receiver option, even with your kind of rebuilding 1 to 2 years out. But if you get AJ Brown, man, I still think that's a win. So AJ Brown, and then probably Wilson, London would be higher ranked the next 2. But if you can trade McBride for any of those guys, I think that'd be phenomenal. Pick 2 to flex this week between DJ Moore, Juwan Jennings, Raheem Mostert. Jennings and Mostert. Raiders defense, man, awful. So Mostert might score a touchdown. I have no trust whatsoever for DJ Moore. None. Jacob in a 10-team Superflex start 11. Russell Wilson or Bryce Young. That's Russell Wilson easily. Bowers or Nico in an extra half tight end premium. Oh, rebuilding with Rip Ride and Bowers is my tight end. My wide receivers are Puka and Amon-Ra. I would take Nico in that one. Yeah, this is that same league. Yeah, if you would keep McBride and then trade Bowers for Nico, I would do that too. Yeah, this works. So I'd say whichever one. How would I rank this? I would rather keep Brock Bowers if that means you can trade him for AJ Brown. Then I would trade Bowers for Nico and keep McBride. And then I would trade McBride for either Wilson or London. So that would be my order. Keep Bowers, trade for AJ Brown, trade Bowers for Nico, keep McBride, keep Bowers, trade McBride for London or Garrett Wilson. That's how I would go about it. Yeah, I just think that Mostert's going to find the end zone this week. I'm going to sprinkle a little anytime touchdown. Anytime touchdown. Play Dawson Knox, Disley, or Taysom Hill this week in PPR. Oh man, good question. Paulson. Tight ends are just so. Bleh. He's got Will Disley. He's got Will Disley as tight end 11. Taysom Hill is tight end 12, and then Knox is all the way down to tight end 20. So Paulson would say Will Disley, and I don't disagree with that, especially with Hill playing against the Browns defense versus Disley getting the Bengals defense and getting the targets that he's been getting over the past couple of weeks. Yeah, I'll play Will Disley. I agree with Paulson on that. Super consequential trade. Is Jared Wiley enough of a return for Taysom? I'm going to say no because I don't care about Jared Wiley. So I guess I'd rather just have Taysom. Dawson Knox or Will Disley? I'll go with Will Disley on that one. Paulson also says Disley. I have a 27 first on my inbox for Jameson Williams. I would break my finger. I'd break all 5 of my fingers hitting the accept button to sell Jameson Williams for any first round pick. I would take a 20-30 first round pick over Jameson Williams. So if you're getting a 27 first for JMO, take the first round pick, man. May, Jonathan Brooks, Olave, Kenneth Walker. I'm 3-7 QBs are Geno, Caleb, and Anthony Richardson. Oh, wait, is this that's the other side, Mike? Traded Bijan, JSN, Bryce Young in 2 seconds for May, Brooks, Olave, Kenneth Walker. I really like this. Olave over JSN, Walker and Brooks over Bijan, and May over Bryce in the seconds. Yeah, I like that a lot. I really, really like, the more I'm like digesting this big trade. Yeah, I like that a lot. Way to go, Mike. That's excellent. Oh, Antonio with the member for 10 months. Awesome, man. What up? What up, Antonio? Buy Tyreek for Waddle and a third or hold? I think I would hold for right now. Both of them are having basically the same struggle. So that from a dynasty standpoint, I'd rather just, I think, keep Jalen Waddle because of the age. So I would probably just hold on to Waddle and the third. So I think at that point, that's basically just that's a dynasty age answer for you with the two of them. I think we're at the point where even with Waddle's depressed value, Tyreek has also lost value because of his age. And if he's not producing, he's going to, like, Cooper Kupp and Mike Evans are like in the wide receiver 30s range. Waddle at his, very depressed value because he's not producing right now is still at wide receiver 26, which Tyreek is a couple spots ahead of him. But I don't think gaining age is really the necessary play here. So I'd keep Waddle for now. Traded Scary Terry in a second for Pacheco in a third. Have London, Marv Tillman, and Rashee Rice on IR. Bijan, JK, Rashad White. I don't hate it. I don't know if I necessarily love it. I don't think Pacheco is going to help you for a championship run if that's what you're hoping for. Um, I don't know if this is a better dynasty side either. I don't know. Mm, I think it's. I think I'd rather have McLaurin in the second. Yeah, I think I'd rather have McLaurin in the second on that one. Judkins, Henderson, or Hampton. I mean, yeah, they're all like. I think they're all just fine right now. Like Judkins and Henderson have both basically cannibalized each other. That's really going to come down to, can we decipher between the two of them, uh, film wise, and what does the NFL think about those two? Hampton, I think, is pretty solid as well. I think he's probably a top 3 or 4 running back in the class. Um, top 5 probably, like, for sure. But I think Hampton's going to be one of those guys that, like, people are like, oh, why is everybody so down on this guy? Or he's like my big sleeper, kind of like how Marshawn Lloyd was last year, or like how Izzy Abanikanda kind of came up to being before the NFL draft kind of ruined him. That's how I view Hampton potentially gaining value over the course of draft season, as more and more people kind of find his name and discover him and bump him up their rankings. But yeah, there's just so much uncertainty with the running back class, I think, that I just don't really have a clear answer on if any of them are really good. And I know Genji's down here in the chat. He's going to tell you that all these guys are bad. So and Antonio, what if you just want to get off of the Waddle ride? I'm not having fun. If you want to get off of the Waddle ride, then I would suggest moving over to like Tank Dell, or if you're willing to add something to him to move up, add something to him to move up to a Devonta Smith or a Jaden Reed or a Zay Flowers or Rashee Rice. Do you already have? No, that was somebody else that already had Rashee Rice. Or Metcalf or Pickens. Like I don't think adding to him to then gain 5 or 6 years of age is necessarily the play. And Waddle and Tyreek are on the exact same ride right now. That's another thing too, that like if you're frustrated with Jalen Waddle, let me tell you, I have Tyreek in a couple leagues, frustrated with Tyreek Hill as well. So they're basically on the same ride. So I'm not trying to pay more to then gain more age when that age is going to, lose a bunch of dynasty value. That's my only issue with it, Antonio. Devin Neal is good. I agree with that one, Genji. Devin Neal is good. He might be a top 5 back for sure. I mean, he was a top 3 back for me in last year's class, top 3 or 4, and then he decided to stay. If you can't give Waddle a Ray right now, then you just got to hold on to him. I think Waddle's going to bounce back. I think he's going to be totally fine. So I have no issue holding on to Jalen Waddle either. You just got to be patient on him, I think. Okay, I have Henry, Kyron, Bijan, JJ, Chase, and Gibbs already in my lineup. Who do I start in my last flex spot between Puka and Amon-Ra? What the heck? Holy crap. You already have. So I'll go with Puka on this one for a couple reasons. I don't know if they're super strong reasons. But one, you already have Jahmyr Gibbs, so maybe not too much of an over-reliance on the Detroit Lions, because I do think that game is going to be absolutely brutal for Jacksonville. Amon-Ra, or the Lions in general, might not throw a ton just because they're going to just beat them down with Gibbs and Monty, and you're benefiting from that by already having Jahmyr Gibbs. So I don't know if I want to rely on Amon-Ra seeing maybe 5 or 6 targets, maybe for, like 40 or 50 yards. Maybe he scores and continues his scoring streak, but I just think that they're just going to demolish the Jaguars. That I don't know if I want to rely too much on multiple pieces of that Lions offense, especially when you already have one of them who I think is going to be a big benefactor of the game script in Jahmyr Gibbs. Puka, on the other hand, I could see doing more, producing more, doing better than Amon-Ra, because I think that the teams are closer. I still think that the Rams win that game pretty easily, but I think that Drake May and the Patriots are going to have an easier time scoring points at home against a weaker Rams defense, to where that game might be more competitive, to where then Puka is going to need to be a little bit more involved. So those are the two reasons. Again, I don't know if either one of them are necessarily super strong, but I think those are the tiebreakers, and those are the hairs that I'm going to split between Puka and Amon-Ra to say to start Puka this week. Paulson, by the way, has it as Puka is Amon-Ra is wide receiver 2 and Puka is wide receiver 9, which I totally understand. They're separated by 3 fantasy points. And I think that's just a product of the Jaguars defense, but I feel like I just trust Puka a little bit more to not kill you than Amon-Ra this week. And I could be wrong, and those reasons are probably not the strongest, but that in my head is the difference. Drop a like, y'all. This man is one of the hardest workers in the fantasy space. Appreciate you, Aloha. Appreciate you. I've been hearing this running back class is great. I've been trying to load up on picks, hoping to bolster my running back room. That's my last need. The running back class, I think, had the opportunity to be great back before the season started. And then once the game started playing and players just kind of, I think one of the other issues that I'm having right now currently that could be solved once I dive into and actually like get my hands in the mud of this running back class is I can't separate any of these players. They all feel very similar. So maybe it's not so much that the running back players and prospects themselves aren't great. It's just that there are so many of them that all feel so similar, to where like there might not be value if you draft a running back at the 105 because you can get a very similar player, very similar prospect at the 2.01. That might be it's going to be basically the entire conversation. I think is going to be how do we actually rank these guys? And we might not even know until the NFL draft just decides to tell us with how they draft these guys. So that might also be part of the struggle for me personally right now, is that I haven't dived deep. I haven't gone deep enough into this class to really parcel out how I feel about everybody in general. Antonio with the $2. Thanks for the insight, brother. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, I just hold on to Jalen Waddle for now if you're not really getting much for him. Hopefully that situation turns, because I also have Jalen Waddle in a decent amount of leagues as well, and I need him to do better. So I feel you. I'm with you. I'm on the same roller coaster as you are and with all these guys, and I just need them to come back. Why hasn't Dak been put on IR? I need to bring Ladd off of Taxi to replace Lockett this week, but we'll have to drop Gesicki or Dalton. That is a good question. I think it's just because he's still getting opinions on what they should be doing. I honestly don't know why he hasn't been put on IR yet. Or maybe he hasn't been put on IR in your platform. I can't spell. We'll finish the season he underwent surgery already. I missed that he already went surgery. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know why he's not placed on IR yet. He's on the IR according to our lads, but I don't know if they just put him on there because they saw the news or what. What would you trade to get DeAndre Hopkins as a contender? Should I give up Theo Johnson in a third? Yeah, I'm fine with that. That's essentially 2/3. I think Theo Johnson is basically a third, so I'm fine with 2/3. Theo Johnson might be another Peter. I don't know if you're still in here, Peter Powers. Theo Johnson is another name for cheap rebuilding targets. But yeah, as a contender, I'm totally fine giving up on him and a third and moving over to get DeAndre Hopkins for the rest of the year. So yeah, I'd pay that for Hopkins. Do I try to move CD for Jefferson or Puka? I don't know if I can make a deal happen, but they're on rebuilding teams, and I'm worried I only have a wide receiver 2 for the play. I mean, you're gonna have to add to CeeDee Lamb to get to Justin Jefferson. You already would have had to have added to CeeDee Lamb to get Jefferson, but now you probably will have to do so even more. I'm fine with moving Lamb for Puka, but you need something on top of Puka to get to Lamb still. So maybe that depends on the team that these players are actually on. If they have other kind of win now assets, maybe you can do Puka and Rashad White for CeeDee Lamb. That might not be the worst thing. Or if you have another rebuilding kind of player on your team that you can add to CeeDee Lamb to go get Justin Jefferson. So if it's like Lamb and Ricky Pearsall for Justin Jefferson, that's probably also worth it. So I think it depends on, you're going to have to add to Jefferson and they're going to have to add to Puka. So it just depends on which one of those is potentially easier to do to determine which one. So obviously I would rather have Justin Jefferson because it's Justin Jefferson, but yeah, I think it just depends on the individual rosters and what everybody has on their teams in general. Alternatively, I got an offer to get AJ Brown for Drake May. Not sure if I'm selling before he goes to the moon. I would keep Drake May over AJ Brown. That is extremely close, but I think there is more upside, and especially when you look at their dynasty career arcs and the trajectories for both of them. AJ Brown at his age can't really gain value. Drake May can gain a lot of value, especially if he ends the year strong. They add another weapon to the offense. He could have a CJ Stroud like ascendance for 2025. So I'd hold on to Drake May over AJ Brown and try to see if you could do something different with Lamb. You talked about selling Najee earlier. What are some pivots you're interested in making with him if you're competing? It's in a point per carry and point per first down. Already have Monty, Kyron, and Pollard. Interesting. Yeah, so could start up to 6 running backs if I wanted. So that, it's like you read my mind on what my first question would have been. It would have been dependent on how many of these running backs you can actually start. Because I would have said, if you had this running back room and you didn't need to start Najee, then I'm totally fine just selling off of him for a pick. If you wanted to sell him to somebody else for a second or a second and a third or something like that, or move off of him to move to a younger wide receiver or a younger running back in something just to gain a little bit of the age back and maybe the potential for production if they're a good handcuff. That's what I would have said, but you said that you can start up to 6 running backs. Basically, I'd be fine pivoting off of him to move over to somebody like Bucky Irving, move over to somebody like Rashad White. Maybe try to, here, let me pull up the for names again. Move over to somebody like James Conner. I think could be a good pivot. Use him in a trade to move up to upgrade somewhere else. Maybe him and Tony Pollard for, I don't know. Who would you even do that for? It's hard to do that at the running back position. I don't really know. Derrick Henry or somebody like that. I don't know if that's, but move off of Najee. Maybe you move over to a Ramondre Stevenson. He's got a really good schedule for the remainder of the year. Or like I said, like move him and add something to then go get George Pickens, go get Zay Flowers, go get DK Metcalf, go get somebody else that's like a younger. Maybe you use Najee and you buy low on Jalen Waddle or buy low on Brandon Ayuk right now. If somebody else is another contender is like, crap, I don't really have a starter for him, but I can start all these running backs. If I get Najee, I just replace Waddle with Najee and I win. But you get Jalen Waddle and I think you win. So those I think would be the pivots for Najee Harris if you're able to do that. Running back scoring is solid and wide receivers devalued too. Yeah. But I mean, if I still think that, Najee is like a kind of like a declining dynasty value, I think, just declining dynasty asset just because of his age. He's not like overly talented. He's very volume dependent, which the volume is nice in the points per carry and the point for first down. I just for the remainder of the year, I just don't know if he's going to be all that productive. He isn't even playing this week. There you go, Genji. So get rid of Najee, in my opinion. Aaron Jones and Kareem Hunt for Tyrone Tracy. I think I'd rather just hold on to Aaron Jones. I don't mind it, but I just don't know what Tracy's going to do for. I guess it's age. Yeah, that's fine. If you want Tracy, if you want to age down from Aaron Jones, I'm fine with that. Because Tracy's end of season schedule is pretty solid too. So I'm fine with it. If you want to age down, I'm okay. DJ Moore is my wide receiver 4 or 5. Should I try and trade him now or just see if the new offensive coordinator helps that offense? I think you just got to wait and see what a new OC is going to do. Maybe you can even sell him in the offseason. His value could rise if they actually hire a capable offensive coordinator. And everybody's talking about like, oh, this is going to do this for Caleb. This is going to do this for DJ Moore, blah, blah. His value might rise just from that. Or his value could rise over the next couple of weeks if we actually see some production come in. I think that now's like probably a bad time to sell DJ Moore because contenders don't want him because he's not producing. Rebuilders don't want him because he is older. So I think you're just kind of stuck with DJ Moore. He's kind of a dead asset right now. So I think you just got to hold on to him and wait and see what happens. Hopefully good things happen. Give up a late third for Richardson in a 12-team single quarterback league. I'm fine with that. In a one quarterback league, Richardson could be the type of player that is a difference maker at your QB1 slot, assuming that he comes back to being productive. So, and he, is good. So I'm willing to, I'm fine with trading a third for that in a one quarterback league. Am I delusional thinking that Laporta could get back to producing like a top 5 option next year? I really think it all hinges on JMO and if he gets re-signed. I think there's 2 things with Sam Laporta is that one, Jameson Williams kind of came up this year. He's kind of dropped back down a little bit, but Sam Laporta's production was better when JMO was suspended, or at least he had one good game with JMO out. But the Lions also have not been throwing anywhere close to what they were doing last year just because they've been so efficient and they've been so productive on the ground. So it's possible that he could return next year if Detroit is not as efficient, not as productive on the ground, and they do have to throw more. Maybe they have a harder schedule so that they're in more shootout games or they're in are facing better defenses that requires them to throw more. And Laporta benefits from that, kind of like what he did last year. So I definitely don't think that, Laporta is now all of a sudden just a back end tight end 1. I mean, he's a mid to back end tight end 1. He's still a top 10 dynasty tight end for me, but that's primarily because of what he's doing right now. It's not to say that he won't ever get back to what he was doing last year. So I don't think you're delusional for thinking he can be top 5 again, or as soon as next year. He could be a top 5, for the remainder of the year because their end of season schedule is kind of rough. They face some good defenses, but there's also some shootout options in there too. Like they have the Packers, they have the Bills, they have the Niners. Those are 3 of their next 6 opponents. There's a sneeze. I feel a sneeze coming on. Oh, it's going to go away and it's so painful. So if they get into more shootout games and they have to throw more, it's possible that Sam Laporta has a better second half than what he did at the beginning of the year, because if they have to throw a little bit more and his target share bumps up because of that. Maybe not so much his target share, but his raw target numbers bump up because of that. Kind of reminds me of, what was it, 2022, the year after Darnell Mooney's 1,000-yard season. Whenever Justin Fields was the quarterback, he was only throwing the ball 18 times a game. Darnell Mooney would have 4 raw targets, and that was a 25% target share. I remember tweeting about that, saying that Darnell Mooney is one of the league leaders in target shares, but he's 50th or something like that in raw targets. That's kind of how I feel like Sam Laporta has basically been this year. Start Cousins, Geno, or Anthony Richardson. All have pretty tough matchups. Yeah, but I got to go with, I think I got to go with Geno Smith on that one. Paulson, what do you say? I'm not starting Anthony Richardson his first week back. Paulson has Geno Smith as the highest ranked. He's got him at QB 15. Richardson's at QB 20. Cousins is at QB. Did I miss him? 23. There he is. Yep. So Paulson has it as Geno, Richardson, Cousins. I'd start Geno Smith against the Niners. I have Olave on a rebuilding team. I'm tempted to move on to him from him due to concussion concerns. Thoughts on trading him for Higgins? Fair swap, more needed on either side. I think it's a pretty fair swap. I would take Higgins over Olave. I'm not sure how much I'd be really, really willing to add to Olave to move off of him for Higgins. Maybe a third. Olave and a third for Higgins, I think it's fine. So I would, yeah, a third. I would not add a second with Olave to move to Higgins, but if you could swap it, if you get anything on top of Higgins, that'd be great. But I'd be willing to add a third. Caleb and Bryce Young have almost identical stats through their first 9 games. Yeah, I know. I saw that Scott Barrett tweeted it out too, that he's having like the worst statistical season in recent history for a quarterback, worse than Wilson and Bryce Young due to a couple of metrics. He had to graph with it. Not saying I disagree. It's very plainly written. But yes, my hope is that Caleb Williams was a better prospect than Bryce Young, more suited for the NFL, has better weapons. They just need the offensive coordinator to come in, and he needs an offensive line. That's my hope for Caleb Williams. As a rebuilder in a Superflex league with Daniels and Love, I'm going to have 101 Genty. I have BTJ, Olave, Dell, and London, but I'm abysmal at running backs. Using a first overall for a running back pains me a bit, but should I shop it? I wouldn't be shopping it now. I would wait until you get into the offseason, because then as we talk more and more about these prospects and you have the ability that maybe it's not Genty is the 101, maybe it's Tet, maybe it's Burden, maybe, we have those conversations about who's deserving of the 1.01. That's going to raise the value of the 101 to where you probably can get more for it in March or April or even on the clock than you do right now. So I honestly, I can't sit here and tell you that Genty is the 1.01. I'm not ready to make any assumption like that, and I would advise you not to choose, not to like just be like, "Yep, Genty's my 101." Still be flexible through the draft season, and it might not end up being Genty. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. No idea, but I wouldn't be shopping it right now, and I wouldn't peg down who you're drafting with that spot as of right now either. Still a long, long way to go. I mean, knock on every single piece of wood right now, but players get hurt. Not to say that, I'm not even going to say his name, that he could potentially get hurt, but other players could get hurt. Players could stay because of NIL deals. There's a lot that could happen still over the next 2 months of college football. And then we still have 4 months of draft season to go through all that. That a lot can change. I am number 1 in a 12-team dynasty. Lost Diggs. Guy wants 2 firsts and second for AJ Brown. Thoughts on this one? I am taking AJ Brown in that one. I'd like to not pay the second round. I would rather pay the 2 firsts and Stephon Diggs than the 2 firsts and the second. Keep the second. Can you maybe do that? Or maybe it's a first and Diggs and a second if he values Diggs a little bit higher than 2. But I would do 2 firsts and a second for AJ Brown. Jalen Hurts are 2 top 6, 25 firsts. That's Jalen Hurts very, very easily. I understand that you already have you have a plethora of quarterbacks here with Allen and Kyler and Hurts, so you're thinking you can cash out. But no, I'd rather trade Kyler. You're not going to get 2 top 6 firsts for him, but even if they're top 6, 2 firsts for Jalen Hurts is not enough, especially in a quarterback class like what we have right now. It's definitely something in my eye. That is definitely not enough for Jalen Hurts. Nowhere near enough for Jalen Hurts. Flex Adams or Tillman this week? Cedric Tillman. Team Tillman. He's going to annihilate the Saints. How much would you pay for a package of Tyreek Hill and Aaron Jones as a contender? I would pay 3 seconds. If you could get away without paying a first round pick for both of them combined, I would love that. You probably have to pay a first for both of them combined, but if you can get away with it, or if it's like a 26 first, then I'm fine with that. But if you can package together like 3 or 4 seconds, if you have it, or I don't know what players you have, but yeah, I would anything less than a first even if you package 3 or 4 assets together, would be fine. But I think a 26 first is okay. I don't know if I'd pay a 25 first. Maybe I probably would. Currently competing in a 12-team start 11 Superflex tight end premium. I have an offer of sending Troy Franklin for Jacoby. This is Jacoby Myers so easily. Take Jacoby Myers. Take the production. My brother traded away Olave and Benson for Kupp and Kamara. He wants to push for a playoff run. Thoughts on short and long-term outcomes? How do you see Olave's long-term value? I think that's fine from a short-term. I mean, Olave's not going to do anything. Kupp and Kamara are obviously massive amounts of points. The Olave situation is rough because of the concussions being now such a major issue. I wasn't really worried about Olave after the first concussion, but then the second concussion was terrifying. I think Olave can come back and still be a solid wide receiver 2, maybe still has wide receiver 1 upside. Benson, of course, could be, the workhorse running back for the Cardinals next year. And that's probably going to bump him up over Alvin Kamara just in general from a dynasty standpoint. So I think that this is a very, very good rebuild versus win now trade that suits both of these teams. This is why dynasty, I think, is so much fun, is because you have the ability to make trades like this because teams have such utterly different directions that they can place different values on all these players. I think that's what makes dynasty so much fun. And I think this is a perfect example of that right now. I'd much rather do this. You're basically trading Najee for Rashad White, and then you're trading Kareem Hunt for a second. Beautiful. Do that one. Or maybe Hunt, Najee, Devonta, Christian Watson for Rashad, or do that one. I'd rather do this and then get Mixon than I would Rashad in just a second. But yeah, if you can get either one of those done, I think that's phenomenal. My sneeze is like in the back of my head, and it feels so weird, and it feels kind of stuffy. That's like the worst feeling in the world whenever you had to sneeze and it doesn't come out. Flex DeAndre Swift or Higgins this week. I think I would go with Higgins, but I don't love it. 51. Paulson doesn't even have Higgins ranked in here. I wonder where he would probably have him. Probably in here next to like Tillman and everybody. I think I would go with Higgins. Yeah, first week back, but I'm just not in love with DeAndre Swift and not sure what that offense is going to be. That I think when Higgins has played this year, he's been really, really good. And they play the Chargers this week. That I think that they can, that should probably be a pretty solid game. So I'd flex T. Higgins, which I saw that he's probably going to play or is playing. So assuming he plays, yeah, I'd go Higgins. What are the chances Hill ends up getting surgery if the Dolphins don't win their next couple of games too? That's possible. That they just shut him down more or less and just say get healthy. But I don't know. I bet you Tyreek plays through it. Higgins and Spears for Najee, Mooney in a late second. Already have London, so I would flip Mooney somehow. No, I would take the Higgins side on this one. From a dynasty standpoint, I would take Higgins. 1 quarterback, best ball, 9 starting spots, top 6 make playoffs. Any moves that you'd make to solidify my playoff spot? I would pivot off of J.K. Dobbins. I would maybe try to sell Chuba as well. And yeah. It's those two, Chuba and J.K. Dobbins, I'd probably try and pivot off of. I think they're fine for best ball, but there might be better running backs that you can switch over to. Or you could probably maybe get a lot for both of them right now. You could combine both of them and then move up and get like Kenneth Walker or something like that. Those are the two players that I see. How to balance getting best deal possible versus jumping on opportunities. Lost out on a Nico trade because as we were negotiating the little details, he sent him elsewhere. Happened again with May Plus for Jaden Daniels. I think there's a fine balance between you're like in my head, the way that you're saying negotiating the little details makes me think that and this might not be you, maybe it's the other person or but since it's happened twice, I do wonder maybe if it's a you thing. But if you're like, yeah, send me a third, yeah, do this, do that. Like there comes a point where none of a lot of that none really doesn't matter. I don't think if it's just like the little details, if it's oh, I prefer this guy slightly over that guy. It's that those are the things that from the other side of it make it more difficult to trade with you if you're nitpicking a lot of stuff or anything like that. And again, I'm not saying that you are. It's kind of what it sounds like potentially. I'm not saying that you are, and you may not be doing those things. Uh, but just in general, the more nitpicky and the more like, oh yeah, then you become the manager that people then don't really want to trade with because they know that it can kind of be a bigger thing and it can kind of be a hassle. And it comes to a point where you just got to hit accept on it, you know? Like you just got to be like, yep, that's it. It's not worth fighting for more. Uh, and especially like if the deal is, 95% fair and you're losing that 5%, then, you know, what are we doing here? Like you just got to just take the deal. Just know when to hit accept or know when to say, yep, send it over or yep, I'm sending that over. Just just do it, Just gotta do it. And I don't know if you're being stingy or you're nitpicking or you're just trying to, you're like, hey, I send me an extra third, send me an extra fourth, send me that player, send me this, blah 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 blah. But you might not be doing that, but because it's happened twice now that you said, and the way that you worded negotiating the little details makes me wonder uh if maybe you just need to say yes. say yes sooner. Don't worry about it. Oh yeah, Seth, we already hit that. Hey Addison, would you give CD straight up for Malik Neighbors? Yes, I would. Um, I think that works pretty well from a dynasty standpoint. Malik Neighbors' second half of the year is really, really good. I think as you know, I think you watched my video. On 4 for 4. I had Malik Neighbors as a playoff buy for redraft. So yeah, from a dynasty standpoint, Lamb and Neighbors probably pretty even. Neighbors has a better schedule. Um, at least has the opportunity to put up more points, I think, and maybe it might be a better offense. I don't know. But yeah, I'm willing to. You're getting a little bit of age back. You're getting a better schedule to still compete. Neighbors is fine for CeeDee Lamb. Non PPR Jennings or London. I'll still go with Drake London. He's probably a better non PPR asset too because I think his touchdown equity is maybe a little higher. Trade Najee for Godwin as a rebuilder. That's Godwin so easily. So easily. Is Cedric Tillman worth an early second? Also, what are you paying for Tyron and Tracy? I don't think Tillman is worth an early second. I also don't think Tracy's really worth an early second. Probably more of a mid to late for both of those guys is where I would go about it. So I would, yeah, mid to late second, or a 26 second, maybe just toss it down the road one more time and maybe have a better opportunity that second isn't early. So yeah, they're both basically very similar in my opinion in terms of value. Needed a running back bad on a contending team. Traded a 26 mid to late first for Bucky and a third. Did I overpay? Yes, you did. I basically had Najee, Mostert, Mason, and nobody else. Oy. Um, yeah, you. Good news is Bucky has a really good end of season schedule. Bad news is you definitely overpaid. That third needed to have been at least a second for me to feel a lot better about this. I feel like you could have gotten a way better running back for a 26 first than Bucky Irving, or had paid just less in general for Bucky. You could have paid maybe 2 seconds for Bucky and then not gotten a kickback back. Yeah, these are the dynasty moves that I just don't like. I'd rather just hold on to the first round pick and then just see what happens. Uh, especially if you end up not like if you think that if you're overvaluing your team again, you might not be doing this, but I've seen a lot of people do this all the time that if they just, kind of take a step back and look at it from somebody else's perspective and not have their rose-colored glasses on because it's their team as a contender. Either if you're that hard of a contender, it might not matter that you added Bucky Irving. So it's probably more beneficial to keep the first. But if you are struggling to be a contender to where you're like, I just need Bucky Irving, then it's also probably not smart to have traded the first round pick because that means that you probably aren't really a contender if Bucky Irving is now going to solve all of your issues. Because then that means if somebody else on your team gets hurt, then you're probably screwed. So that's the duality of the situation, I guess. And yeah, Chasing Breaker said the same thing. Not sure if you're actually contending if you're reliant so heavily on Jordan Mason. It's kind of yeah. So that's my issue with it. It was an overpay for the player in general, and then also the process of the trade. I'm gonna question as well, but that's a learning moment. As I've made so many stupid trades exactly like this over the last 8 or 9 years that I've been playing. How long have I been playing Dynasty? Since 2016. So what is this, my 9th season? I've made so many dumb trades that I have all formulated into my process and my viewpoint on things like this to where now I'm telling you that now is because of all the dumb trades that I've also made. It's like I listen to Dave Ramsey sometimes, and he always says about how, because he gives the same advice and stuff too. And he's like, listen, I've done the same exact thing. He says that his line is he has a PhD in DUMB. So I'm right there with him from a dynasty standpoint. 14 team dynasty PPR tight end premium. What can I do for the championship with this roster? 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex. This is pretty solid. I wish you could move off of Chris Godwin, but you probably can't. It's probably not worth it. I don't know what picks you have to know like what other moves and stuff, but your team looks pretty solid in general. I would love a better wide receiver too. I think you can kind of Frankenstein a wide receiver two together with the production that Ridley's going to give you, or it has been giving you, and will probably continue to give you with his schedule. Flowers has been pretty solid in some high scoring games. Tillman coming up out of nowhere. His schedule's kind of rough though for the remainder of the year. JT and B-Rob, great 1 and 2. Lamar is carrying as well. Ertz is fine. I just wonder how can you get a better wide receiver 2 in there? Like, does somebody who's not competing have a Cooper Kupp or have a Mike Evans, or can you go maybe it's not about the player himself, but maybe you can just go spot start or buy low on like a Jacoby Myers or somebody like that, to where you feel more confident about throwing him into your lineup than like JSN, where that gives you the extra player to then throw into your flex spot because you can start up to 4 of those wide receivers, and really 1, 2, and really 4 of them are who I feel like are solid every week starters in Puka, Ridley, Flowers, and Tillman right now. But if Tillman starts to fade off or anything like that, or struggles because of his schedule, and I don't really feel confident. I almost said comfortable and confident in the same word. Confidable in JSN every week, because now DK Metcalf's coming back. So JSN is probably not going to be a great start. God forbid one of your running backs get hurt. I think you need to address a couple of pieces, but again, I don't really know. I wouldn't really do that with any of these players here, I don't think, unless you do like a 2-for-1 at the wide receiver spot. Move Ridley and Flowers and upgrade. Move Ridley and Tillman and upgrade. Ridley and JSN and upgrade into one just better individual player that you feel more comfortable starting every single week. And then maybe if you have like an extra second or something like that, you can move it for a Rashad White or a Aaron Jones or a James Conner or somebody along those lines. There's a lot of comments, and we're at 1:30. Just sucks how far out the 27 first is. I'd rather wait until Jamo has a blow up week, but our trade deadline is this week. I'll see if I can squeeze Keaton Mitchell out of him too. Sure. I think Keaton Mitchell is a waiver wire guy. But I don't think I would take a 27. I would take a first so hard over Jameson Williams. I don't care what year it is. A first is a first, man. Take the first round pick. Give Rodgers for Jalen Wright in a super flex projected to be a playoff team. The quarterback room is Herbert, Nix, Carr. I'm fine with taking Jalen Wright on that one. Get off of the Aaron Rodgers train. Move over to somebody who has a much better projection for later on in his career, much better dynasty projection. You're not starting Rodgers anyway. You're starting Herbert and Nix probably every single week, and at least you have Carr as your QB3. So, yeah, I'll take Jalen Wright on that one. Do we just hold out with Dak till next year on a contending roster because values dropped so much and hope for refresh next year? Have Murray, Darnold, Rush, Fields, O'Connell. The good news, at least for you specifically, Christian, is that you have Kyler Murray and Sam Darnold still to start. I am totally fine holding on to Dak Prescott if you were a contender and you lost him, because I just don't think that you can really trade off of him for anything fantastic. I mean, maybe if you can move off of him to go over to a Bo Nix, then I think that's fine. I've seen people move off of him to move over to Tua, and I don't know if that really solves any issues. I think for you, I don't know if that really does anything either, because then you're going to be deciding between Darnold and Tua every week. Oop, I just hit the space bar and it turns off the comment. Interesting. So I think you're better off probably just holding on to Dak Prescott, or maybe see if you can move him to a rebuilder that is fine not having the points. And, maybe you can get a Justin Herbert or a Baker Mayfield or a Jared Goff or a Bo Nix, or still buy low on Drake May beforehand. That's probably going to be hard because if rebuilders won't want to get rid of Drake May for Dak Prescott. Move over to Jordan Love because he hasn't been producing well over the past couple of weeks. Like, I think there is an opportunity to still to kind of buy him, but it has to be a very specific team that wants Dak and has a more win now asset for you at the quarterback position that still makes sense. One of those names that I just mentioned, not moving Dak for Stafford or Cousins or Rodgers or Geno or anybody like that. I don't think any of that is really worth it for Dak. I'd rather hold on to him. But if you can move up from him, I think that's still fine to do. But I'm still willing to hold on to Dak, or as Connor said, his Dak on a couple contenders because he bought low. No one wants him. So I think you might just be kind of stuck with him. So that might just be your answer. But I'd like to see maybe if you can upgrade off of him. But it probably takes specific rebuilding teams that would be fine buying into him and selling you a slightly better quarterback and getting something on top. Mustang with a $10 super chat payday and just felt like saying thank you. Appreciate you so much, my man. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Wow. Thank you, man. The fact that it was payday and you just felt like tossing over $10. I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you. Thank you. You have any questions, Mustang? If you have anything, you can toss it in. We can see if we can talk about it. But I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you. Thank you. Where were we? I'm trying to scroll down to the bottom to see if Mustang, if you're typing anything or not. I chat with you on Discord. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you wanted something on not on Discord. If you wanted to put it in the stream. Oh, here we go. This is from earlier. Half an hour ago. I found it as I was scrolling back up. Which was conveniently the second to next. JS, I'll get to you in just 1 second. Having a debate with a few people over Benson's straight up value. What do you think his value is draft capital wise? I don't think it's a first round pick, but it's probably 2 strong second round picks for you. Like if you I don't think it's a first round pick, but it probably 2. I don't think I would sell Benson for 2 late seconds. I don't think I would sell Benson even for 2 early to mid seconds. I would probably he's one of those guys that is like a wouldn't sell for less than a first, but wouldn't buy for more than a couple seconds. He is one of those guys that really rides that gap. Um, Especially now that he's been producing over the past couple of weeks. He's kind of turned into what Braylon Allen kind of was earlier in the year behind Breece Hall. He's doing that now behind James Conner with Conner healthy. So you have the handcuff upside. If Conner gets hurt, you have the workhorse upside if Conner doesn't get re-signed, and you have potential flex upside right now because he's been getting enough volume and he's doing well enough with it that he's been scoring well enough. That I think he has been an RB2 the past 2 weeks or a top 25 guy. So maybe he is kind of more of a late first. I think as a contender, I don't know if I would trade a late first for Trey Benson right now. But multiple seconds for sure. And it had to be multiple like strong seconds for Trey Benson. JS in a 10-team Superflex. Baker price check. Need running back help as a contender. What are some options for flipping Baker? Baker Mayfield for a running back. You'd have to get a really like. What does Keep Trade Cut even say is the best running back you can get? Yeah, James Cook is the running back that's right next to Baker Mayfield in that. Like that I find it hard to believe that you are able to trade off of Baker Mayfield for a running back. That just seems like such a negative EV thing. Baker Mayfield's rest of season schedule is so great. I would need like Kyron or Kenneth Walker or Achane for Baker Mayfield right now. So yeah, I just selling a quarterback for a running back just seems so weird. But I would, like I said, I would need probably Achane or Kyron or Kenneth Walker at the running back position, minimum. Nick has a redraft question. Someone dropped Njoku. I've been rolling with Andrews and Kraft all year. How much fab would you spend out of 55? And who would you drop between Mason, Deontay, and Kraft? Is it necessary to pick? Like you have Andrews. Do you need David Njoku? You probably have a decent amount of fab compared to the rest of your league. Maybe if you still have 55, maybe if you throw like $7 or $8 on him just to keep him off of another team's roster. But that seems in redraft, that just feels like so suboptimal. I don't know if I don't know if it's worth it. I'd rather start like you have Mark Andrews as an every week starter now. And yeah. I mean, maybe you can drop Kraft for Njoku if you get Njoku for a couple bucks. That's probably fine. You can do that. Spend a few bucks on Njoku, see if you get him, drop Tucker Kraft for him. That works. I just don't know if you need David Njoku. Appreciate you, Scoff. Hopefully, I'd be interested to know which trade you get done for CeeDee Lamb. If you do either one of them, if you're able to move to JJ or move to Puka, I'm curious to know which one you're able to get. Yeah, this is easy. Pickens is in my DraftKings lineup, and I already know I've got bets lined up on him for sure. All the George Pickens. So what does someone do with Olave in the offseason? The dude is worse off than Tua when it comes to concussion, scared for the future. You try to pivot off of Chris Olave for a different young wide receiver, a la Zay Flowers, George Pickens, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins. Add to him to get to DK Metcalf. That's what you got to do with Olave. Let's see. Oh, Ben comes in here with a $10 super chat. It's not payday, but I agree with Mustang. Appreciate you much, brother. Thank you so much, man. With the $10 super chat. Thank you. Even and not on payday either. Mustang, you just got one up, man, because Ben's pulling payday's next Friday for Ben. I'm just joking. Appreciate you so much, Ben, with the $10 super chat. Mustang, I appreciate you as well too. Antonio, I appreciate you. Brad, in here with a $5 super chat. So thank you so much as well to you too. I had Amon-Ra, DJ Moore, Waddle, Olave, and BTJ traded Bowers for Andrews and D-Hop. Did I sell too low on Bowers for help at wide receiver? I think you did. Especially from a dynasty lens. Is this dynasty, Brad? Oh, redraft. Okay. Yeah, I had to go back to the other tab. So from a redraft standpoint, I don't think you sold. I think you probably could have gotten maybe a little bit more, but I don't think you sold low. I was about to roast you from a dynasty standpoint, but I will rein all of that back in. Yeah, you definitely need help at wide receiver for sure. And I like the deal. I think I would still have taken Bowers. I think from the other side of it, to upgrade from Andrews and D-Hop was probably a guy that he got off of waiver wire. I understand that totally from the Brock Bowers side of it. From your side, I get it as well too. I mean, you got to do something. You got to get a player in there that isn't actually currently hurt like Chris Olave and isn't struggling to put up points in a horrible situation like DJ Moore and BTJ. And hopefully BTJ gets Trevor Lawrence back next week. That would be great. But yeah, chasing breakers, redraft makes that worlds better. Yes, it does. So yeah, I think you could have gotten a little bit more, or maybe somebody better than D-Hop. I don't know what that team looked like, but I don't mind it. You needed the help at the wide receiver position. You got to do something in the redraft world. So yeah, I don't mind this. I don't mind this at all. Appreciate the $5 super chat, my man. Thank you so much. 9-1 with Connor, so was thinking about selling my late first for Benson. Maybe I can get something in return on top of it. Yeah, if you can, for sure. That might be more beneficial for you as well. I'm more in on trading a late first for Trey Benson in your situation because you have James Conner. So you're not only paying for the insurance for the remainder of the year, but you are also paying for what happens if James Conner is not re-signed and you get the extra boost of value and production next year. So yeah, I'm fine with trading the late first. That I think is a tiebreaker for me in the sense that you already have James Conner, so you're paying for some extra security and the future. So I like that. I'm cool with the late first for that. And Ben's got a question. All right. I know you probably ain't about to touch A-Rich with a 10-foot pole. Might need to be a little longer of a pole. But you're starting Jameis over A-Rich. Yes. Same team. Who deflects more? Najee, Shakir. Yes, I would start Jameis Winston this week over Anthony Richardson. Paulson. Does Paulson agree with me on that? Yes, he does. Paulson agrees with me. He has Jameis projected for almost a point more. 15 fantasy points to Richardson's 15.3 fantasy points to Richardson's 14.5. Now, same team, who deflects between Moore, Najee, and Shakir. Is that DJ Moore or Elijah Moore? Because now that's actually become a question. I wouldn't have considered it to be Elijah Moore before a couple weeks ago, but now that might be an important distinction. Or maybe it's David Moore, who I just discovered is still playing in the NFL. DJ Moore. DJ Moore, Najee, or Shakir this week. Half PPR. Genji says Shakir. I might lean towards Shakir. Paulson, help us. Oh, what'd I do? Hit refresh. Shakir is flex 60. Najee is flex 46. DJ Moore, no. Moore is flex 66. So Paulson says Najee. Shakir does worry me. Kansas City's defense is really freaking good, man. But without Kincaid, is Coleman playing? Coleman was ruled out. Amari is playing though. Bills, Amari Cooper, awesome, optimistic about return versus the Chiefs. See, that's another thing. Like, I feel like if Amari plays, that might make Shakir a little bit more interesting because more defensive attention might be put onto Amari, even if he's just a decoy. That defensive attention would probably then get put on Khalil Shakir if Amari and Coleman isn't playing and Dalton Kincaid isn't playing. They are going to need to pass against Kansas City. They are vulnerable to short yak stuff. Yeah. But I think this Baltimore Steelers game is going to be fun. And I think Najee might have a pretty decent game as well too. I think from a safety standpoint, I'd probably play Najee Harris. I think if you wanted a little bit of extra upside, maybe you could go over to Khalil Shakir if he gets kind of those. It is a half PPR league though, so that kind of does lean me more towards Najee as well. I think I'd start Najee, Ben. Genji and Chasing Breakers are putting you towards Shakir, but Paulson puts you on Najee, and I think I've talked myself into Najee on this one too. Eli's got to start the Pitt defense this week. I mean, sometimes these good defenses or these elite defenses, even against really good offenses, man, they sometimes still do well. Like Denver's defense did well against Kansas City last week. So Steelers defense against the Ravens might not be bad. Might not be bad. I need to go all the way back up to the top. Where were we? Ricky Pearsall and Eric All for Cade Otton. Ooh. I'm fine with it. I'll take Cade Otton if you need a tight end to compete. I'm cool with it. Burner. 12 team start, 10 super flex, half PPR, not contending this year, but expected to make the playoffs next year. That being said, is Jacoby Myers a sell or a hold? I think if you're not contending this year, I think he'd be worth exploring the sell. Even if you move over to a second, that gives you some liquidity. You don't have the risk of Jacoby Myers getting hurt. More people in your league would be interested in the second round pick than Jacoby Myers. Everybody wants a second. Only a select number of teams want Jacoby Myers. So if you're able to just flip him now for a second, not to say that you can't just buy him back next year, but I think if you got a second round pick for Jacoby right now, I'd probably sell him to a contender. Even if you are looking at competing next year, I think if you got a second for Jacoby now, I'd sell him. 16 team, 1 quarterback start, 8 point per first down. Tough matchup against a tough team. Have a big score from Barkley in the bank. Nice. With a low score by Darnold Jefferson stack last week, should I start Herbert versus Darnold? I think I start Justin Herbert. What does Paulson say? Herbert's been really good. Herbert's the quarterback 8 on the week for Paulson. They play a terrible Bengals defense. And Darnold is all the way down at QB 18 against a pretty solid Titans defense. So, yeah, I would, especially if you're looking for kind of more safety too. I think Darnold has shown the ability to put up some duds. So if you're looking for safety because you already did so well with Barkley last night, I think I would play Herbert tonight, and you still got Justin Jefferson in case Darnold were to go off. Jefferson probably would be a big beneficiary of that. So I would play Herbert instead of Sam Darnold. Also waiting for Pacheco as a gross flex 2 decision. Watson, Robinson, or Hunter Henry. I'll go with Hunter Henry on this one. That is really gross, but I'll go with Hunter Henry. I'd trust him to have the most volume out of these guys and potentially also have the best opportunity to score a touchdown. Are we worried about A.J. Brown? His production has been lackluster so far. I need him for the playoffs. I am not really worried about A.J. Brown. I think that he's kind of struggling through the same thing that Amon-Ra had been struggling with, is that offense is just so good outside of A.J. Brown that he's not as necessary. So that's why he's not really putting up as many points right now. But if you look at the rest of his schedule, I mean, he's going to have a game against the Rams. He's got a shootout game against the Ravens. Still got the Commanders again. Pittsburgh is in there. So there are potential shootout games still for the remainder of the year to where they might not be as effective uh, on the ground, or maybe if they are still effective on the ground, they still need to be effective through the air. I mean, they a lot of those defenses are still really bad against the run too with Saquon. So Saquon might still eat, but I'm not really worried about AJ Brown. Maybe the ceiling isn't as high, or maybe the floor is a little bit lower if the ceiling is still as high. But I'm not really ultimately all that worried about AJ Brown. I still have him as a weekly wide receiver one, because he's been over 80 yards basically like every game he started and finished, minus last night. So I'm not there yet to be worried about him. What running backs would you target if you were to trade away Kyler Murray or Anthony Richardson? Well, I would take in Dynasty Superflex, I would take Kyler Murray over every single running back in the NFL. Richardson, I would probably sell him for you're probably in that Pollard Stevenson range with Anthony Richardson. Yeah. On Keep Trade Cut, Richardson is right around Bucky, Brian Robinson, Chuba, Swift, Dobbins. If you could trade Richardson for Bucky, I'm totally on board with that. Pollard is a little bit down there too. So Pollard, I think, would be fine. Brian Robinson would be good too. You can wait till Anthony Richardson drops something. I would want the difference though, Genji, is that I would want to trade Anthony Richardson after he drops a 30 bomb. But yeah, I would not trade Kyler Murray for a running back straight up 1-for-1, because I would take Kyler over every running back in the NFL in Dynasty Superflex. What are your thoughts on Dak for Metcalf trade I made this week in the listener league? I was hesitant to send it out. Did you make a trade? The past 2 weeks have been so freaking busy. I need Justin to come back, dude. Justin's been on a honeymoon for the past 2 weeks, and I'm dying. I'm dying over here, man. I need him to come back and help me make some content. What'd you do? Devon Vele in a third for Juwan Jennings. I did see that one come through. Yeah, so it was just Dak for Metcalf. I like that a lot. Especially with the fact that, you still have Geno Smith. You have Daniel Jones, so you're all right. Anthony Richardson is coming back too. I really don't mind it ultimately. Like if you think that you're confident enough in the starters that you have at quarterback, and then you got Christian McCaffrey coming back, Kamara. Now you add DK Metcalf to Mike Evans coming back. I really don't mind it from both a dynasty standpoint. If you're looking to rebuild, and you got Geno for the 2 and the 4 yesterday. Oh, I did see that one come through. Yeah. So essentially, if you traded Dak in a second for Geno and DK, I think that's pretty good. They probably won't be though, Genji. But yeah, I think from a dynasty standpoint, Dak for DK Metcalf is pretty fair. Even when Dak comes back and he's healthy, I still think you're not going to be really ultimately that upset about trading away Dak Prescott. And it keeps your contending hopes alive without really hurting your longevity. What is everyone's thoughts on Rashad past this season? I'm still exploring selling JT for DJ Moore, Ramondre, Rashad without giving much else on top of JT. I still am taking JT pretty easily in this one, Ben. I think Rashad may be fine after this year. I think next year could be pretty similar to what it is this year with the duo of Bucky and Rachaad White. Of course, the end of year is going to be pretty solid for Rachaad White, but past this season, he might just be, maybe he's like Najee Harris, I think I would take JT pretty easily in this. This feels like I'm glad that this sat, because I was way more in on this deal a couple weeks ago than I am now. So I'm taking JT a lot easier. It's funny how quickly all these values change. I'm taking JT super, super easy over all this. I'll start Hunter Henry over Johnny this week. Trade Olave in a second for Tracy in a first. I'll take Tracy in the first there. You get the first round pick for Olave. That's pretty fine. And 27 second for Tracy. My voice is starting to. All right. How fast can we fly through these? Did you already talk about Mooney? I just traded Ayuk to get him 2 days ago. So that news was heartbreaking. What are your thoughts on the risk there? What happened to Darnell Mooney? Did I miss a Darnell Mooney injury? Oh, popped up for the first time with an Achilles injury? No. I'm telling you, dude, this week it's been way too busy. I'm not really super worried right now for Darnell Mooney. Just these are my like immediate reactions of just finding out about this Achilles injury right now. But I'm not like overly concerned at the present moment, but that probably does make him more of a sell right now while he is producing in a good situation that I probably want to move off of. Yeah. That kind of sucks. I was not ready. I was not prepared for that. I literally just found out right now. When did that news break? 22 hours ago. What was I doing yesterday at 2 p.m. or 4 p.m., I guess? Editing videos, working. I would rather have Ayuk than Darnell Mooney now, though, with that news. Sorry, Antonio. Would you move Chuba in a third for a 25 first? Absolutely. I'm taking the first round pick for that one. Give Love in a mid first and Downs or pick 11. Oh, and get Lamar Jackson. Okay. Love a first and either another first or Downs and get Lamar. Ooh. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. Give me Lamar Jackson. I would take Lamar in this. If you can trade away Josh Downs or that'd be 2.01 in a 10 team. Yeah. Yeah. Either one of them work. I'd probably prefer to keep the 2.01 over Josh Downs at the present moment. But I would do it with either one of them and just go up and get Lamar Jackson. What is the value gap between Puka and AJ Brown? Do you mind explaining on both a rebuilding / a contender side? So as a rebuilder, I would move AJ Brown for Puka flat. If not even potentially add like a third or something like that to move from AJ Brown to Puka if you were a rebuilder. As a contender, I don't know if there really is a difference in both. As a contender, the difference is probably the fact that AJ Brown is a little bit older than Puka. So you'd still probably prefer Puka then. It's probably pretty even, honestly, on both sides. Like as a rebuilder and a contender, you probably both want the same thing because you're going to be able to age down while getting similar production out of Puka from AJ Brown. But to get a younger asset on the rebuilding side, that's just that, but even more. So it's probably like a third round pick with AJ Brown to move over to Puka on both sides. Which I think makes sense because they're both basically like in the same tier. It's just which one do you prefer given the age and everything like that. So I would take a third round pick is how I would go about it. Need a quarterback. Would you trade Josh Allen for the 1.01? I would take Josh Allen so easily over the 1.01. Assuming this is super flex. If this is one quarterback, I take the 101. But in super flex, it's so easy. This is an interesting one where it's like in super flex, it's so easily Josh Allen. In one quarterback, it is so easily the 1.01. Start one flex out of Chubb, Swift, Amari Cooper in a full PPR. I'll go with Nick Chubb on that one, or would you drop any of them for Tillman for a spot start? Yes, I would. I would drop. Who do I drop? I would start Tillman out of all four of these guys. Crap. Who do I drop? Can you? I think I would drop Nick Chubb. I would drop Nick Chubb for Cedric Tillman, and I played Cedric Tillman. I don't like it, but I would drop him for Tillman. Would you trade Pickens in a late second for Roma Dunze? The pick is on the wrong side of that one, my dude. I would take Pickens over Roma Dunze straight up. Pick's on the wrong side. Question I've been thinking about moving on from Smitty is trading away Smith and Keenan Allen for CD and JSN valid. That is a smash deal for the CD Lamb side. Don't know if this gets done. Smash for CD Lamb, man. What kind of a retool trade could I explore for JT or Devonta Smith? If you can move from JT and kind of move over to a like Mixon or Jacobs maybe, and then you get something on top of that. Or move from Devonta Smith, move that over to you get Waddle plus for Devonta Smith. I think that would be good. Yeah, those would be like my main trade targets, I think, with both guys. Is like Mixon or Jacobs for JT, and then Smith I would move over to like Waddle or Rashee Rice. That would work too. Will Levis plus what can get me Dak? Do you think a second would get you there, Genji? It might. 12-team Superflex, start 9, 4, and 6, not making the playoffs. Traded Cousins, Darnold, Bigsby for Dak and Daniel Jones. Nice. Traded Chase for CeeDee Lamb and DJ Moore this week. Yeah, I don't mind either one of them. I mean, the DJ Moore, hopefully DJ Moore gets better next year. I like the Dak one. I don't think either one of these are like, bam, you killed it. But I think they're both pretty solid trades. I like them. It's real. Don't doubt it, Nick. It's real. Because Andrews himself is also coming back from injury. People, I think we haven't put enough weight onto that. So not this year, but he's coming back from injury from last year. So I think Andrews is just getting better. Contending and traded away Valet. Kyler, 25 mid and late first for Lamar, AJ Brown, Aaron Jones, and a 25 second. Did I do all right? Who's Valet? I'm trying to think of who. I'll come back. Brandon, if you're still in here, I'll come back to that one. I'm checking the bottom. I'll take JSN over Chris Olave right now. I'm good on that one. 12-man dynasty. I'm trying to fly through these a lot quicker because I'm trying to make sure I get to Vele. It is Vele. Is it? No. See, that's why I was wondering if it, like, I thought maybe if it was Devon Vele, but why would he be just in my head? It doesn't make sense that he would be like the first guy listed. We're still speculating whether it is actually Vele or not. I just don't think when you're listing out a trade that you say I traded away Devon Vele and Kyler Murray. Maybe. I don't know. I have no idea. That could be an autocorrect thing. I don't know who you were trying to spell. Maybe Brandon's still in here. Where were we at? 12-man Dynasty Superflex, first year doing Dynasty rebuild mode. Whoop, whoop. I got all the major pieces I can get my hands on. Focusing on picks. How important are 4th and 3rd round picks? They're not super important unless you're a very good drafter. Because there are, I keep hitting spacebar. There are absolutely players that come out of the 3rd and 4th round every single year that either have 1 to 2 years of dynasty success, multiple more years of success. Every now and then you get the outlier. You get the Puka Nacua outlier. I drafted, Kenny Golladay in the 4th round back when he was a rookie. I drafted Aaron Jones when he was a rookie in the 4th round. My one buddy in another one of his rookie drafts drafted Cooper Kupp in the 3rd round in his rookie draft. You get players like that come out of the 3rd and 4th. So if you are a good drafter, they can be good. But it also depends on kind of like the process. So like Chase Brown, 3rd round pick, Ramondre Stevenson, 3rd round rookie pick, Isaiah Pacheco, 4th round rookie pick or undrafted. You drafted Jahmyr Gibbs in the 4th last year. And redraft probably. Who else was like there are names and they can be, usually I use them for handcuff running backs, but I do agree, like with David, with Dynasty is my life, like they are good pieces to add onto packages to get deals done. They're really good. David points out that it's trade currency. I like that a lot. 4th round picks are just, they're whatever. Like I really could care less about 4th round picks. But they are fun. Cody drafted Bucky, Tracy, and JT Sanders this year in the 4th. See, like if you are a good drafter, you can optimize yourself to where you can hit on those guys more often than other people hit on them. So they aren't terrible. And if you have a larger collection of them too, then it gives you more darts to throw at the dartboard to actually hope that you hit the dartboard, So it just, they're nice to add on to trade packages if you're rebuilding. If you can get that extra 30, you can get that extra 4th. But you just also, you have to be a good drafter as well. And by good drafter, I mean like not that you are just getting lucky, but like you are actually like looking at these prospects. Did this guy fall in the draft because he ran a really slow 40? Bucky Irving, Kyron Williams. Kyron was a 3rd or 4th round rookie pick, I think, too. So did they fall in the draft because their combine was really bad, but the tape looks better? Did they fall in the draft because maybe there was like a medical issue or something like that kind of really wasn't an issue? And if it doesn't become an issue, then Kyron was on, but like before he was on waivers, people dropped him because like I think he was a 3rd or 4th round rookie pick after the draft. Because he was still a good handcuff for Darrell Henderson. Or is this prospect just going under the radar just because he's going under the radar? Like he looks good, you want to take the shot on him, boom, that's what it is. So they're important if you're a good drafter. I will say that. And especially as a rebuilder, the more darts and stuff that you can take onto these guys to be able to have the opportunity to find those players, that's how you speed up your rebuilds and be a contender. If you can find the Tank Dells, find the Kyron Williams, find the Ramondre Stevensons, find the Chase Browns. Chase Brown was a 3rd round pick last year too. So if you're smart about who you draft and identify and have a process for how you identify players that you can stick with, I think that they are important. This is FOMO on the clock for guys that dump all their picks and just want to get a guy. It works well that way to get a decent vet when the table flips. Yeah, I definitely do agree with that too. People definitely do get rookie fever. They get FOMO for not picking, and you are able to trade those picks for a little bit higher during draft time when they're on the clock. So that also helps too. Love James Conner for Khalil Shakir. I'm in on that one. Did I miss? Do we still not know if that was Devon Vele or not? I think Brandon might have left because he asked me that at 1:30. That was half an hour ago. So he might have left. This is George Pickens so easily, Jeff. Let's see. Dynasty is my life. Up 13 since I had B-Rob. Pick 3 to start between Hawk, Hill, Hopkins, DJ Moore, Ladd, and Andrews. Also starting Bowers already. Nice. Who do I not want to start? I don't want to start DJ Moore. I don't want to start. I'll start TJ Hawkinson. I'll start Ladd McConkey. And I'll start. I think I'll start Tyreek Hill as my third guy. So TJ Hawkinson, Tyreek Hill, Ladd McConkey, I think would be the 3 guys that I would start. Paulson would say Tyreek, flex 34. Hawkinson is flex 63. Hopkins is flex 55, so he's slightly better than Hawk. Moore is the lowest of these so far. Ladd's above DJ Moore. Andrews is below DJ Moore too. So Paulson would say Hill, Hopkins, Ladd. I think I would start Hawk over Hopkins, though. What's the straight up superflex value for Rodgers in a 12 team? I'm coming out of a rebuild next season. I have young quarterbacks and picks, but can't get a second I'd like for him. Cut bait for lower value. You probably need to move over to, it's probably not a second round pick. You probably just need to look at all the contenders in your league and see if they have, like earlier, there was that other trade where it was Jalen Wright. If you can find a player kind of like that, like Jalen Wright, like Marshawn Lloyd, like Blake Corum, like a, maybe it's Keon Coleman, maybe it's Xavier Legette, maybe it's Adonai Mitchell, maybe it's somebody more like that where it's a younger player. I guess I just basically named like a bunch of rookies, but like a younger player like that who still has upside for the future that kind of could be a second, but kind of maybe more like a third, but kind of, is in and around that range. So it might not be a second in actual pick value, but has the ability to be a second if they produce well enough. I'm in win now mode. Was counting on Pacheco, Jonathan Brooks for the stretch run, but not sure I can anymore. Traded 2 firsts for Waddle and Ayuk. How did I do? I don't mind that, especially with it being a 26 and 27 first. Hopefully Waddle can return to that production. I think both those guys are worth first round picks. So yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind it, Jeremy. Hopefully Waddle comes back. I'm really, really hoping that Waddle comes back. ETN for Cedric Tillman. Is that fair? I think I would still maybe lean with Travis Etienne, but I think it's pretty fair. I think that's pretty fair. Especially if Tillman ends up being, Tillman's probably the best. No, he's probably the second best waiver pickup of the year. Kareem Hunt was number 1, then Tillman number 2. Is that what you would say, Genji? Who else do we even pick up off of waivers? Yeah, I think that's got to be it. Kareem Hunt for sure is the best waiver wire pickup of the year. Or Jordan Mason. Was Mason considered a waiver wire ad? He probably was. Where we at? The guy wants Cup and Najee for Tracy. No, that's No. I like my mind broke on that a little. I would take Cup over Tracy straight up. Then you add Najee into it. Guy Jet early. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for hanging out and answering questions, Addison. Thank you, Ryan, if you watch this back. Mason was good for like 3 weeks. No, he wasn't. Jordan Mason was okay. I'll give you. It was good for 4 weeks. Then he. Oh wait, this is standard. Oh wait, that's not going to matter whatsoever for Mason. Still good for 4 weeks. Then didn't score over 10. He hasn't scored over 10 PPR fantasy points since week 4. Okay. Yeah, Kareem Hunton. But he was good for 4 weeks, Kenji. Get your facts straight. Guy in my league flipped Tucker Craft for Kelsey in a win now move. Laporte is on his bench, so win-win. I think that's a win-win on both sides of it. That's a classic rebuild versus competing move. I like it. Dynasty Superflex, half PPR need more depth at wide receiver. Have Justin Jefferson. Trade Jefferson for Amon-Ra JSN in a second. Wow. I'd do it. I would do it. I'm getting notifications on people coming back. Devontae Adams is on track to play. That's good. L'Jarius Sneed will not play. All right. Yeah, I'll take Amon-Ra St. Brown, JSN in a second for that. I think that's a pretty good package for Justin Jefferson. 4 weeks, Kenji. Okay, 3.5. I'll give you 3.5. Yo, Cody, what's up, man? I'm a contending team. Just traded Bucky and a first for JT and Ayuk. I've also got Gibbs, Achane, and JT is my Kareem Hunt replacement when Pacheco comes back. I like that. The upgrade, I'd take JT over Bucky and a first for Brandon Ayuk. I think makes sense on both sides of it. So I like it, man. I think that's a pretty good trade, especially moving off of, or not moving off of, but having a different insurance policy than Isaiah Pacheco for when he comes back. Would you buy Dak on a contender? Would you flip a lesser quarterback for him if you need the points? Like if I had Stafford, I would flip him. If I had Russell Wilson, I would flip him. If I had Aaron Rodgers, I would flip him. If I had Gino, I would flip him. Like if you can, I think if you can survive with whoever your QB3 is as your QB2, and go get Dak Prescott, I'm willing to do that as a contender. I probably wouldn't trade like Cousins for him because I think Cousins is pretty close. I probably wouldn't even trade. I probably would trade Anthony Richardson for Dak. I'd trade Justin Fields for Dak. Derek Carr for Dak. I don't know if any of those deals are getting done though. But yeah, like if you had a lesser quarterback, I'm willing to buy Dak as a contender because I think that helps your team in the future if you're able to not hurt the production of your team for the next 6 weeks. Kyler Darnold, Levis. Yeah, if it was Levis in a second, yeah, because it was Levis plus equals Dak. Like Levis in a second, I think would be good to buy Dak. Then you just rely on Kyler and Darnold for the rest of the year. Darnold does have a bye week though, doesn't he? Oh no, he doesn't. Darnold's already off his bye. But Kyler is on bye this week. Yeah. 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 So you'd be fine after this week. You'd be fine with Kyler and Darnold if you can sell Levis in a second for Dak Prescott. I'd be willing to do that. Sorry if I missed this. Start one between Estime versus Amari Cooper in a non-PPR. I'll go with Estime in this one in a non-PPR league. What about McLaurin and Ayuk instead of DK? Oh, wait, you had this one. Metcalf, Reed. Sorry, I skipped your first one. Metcalf, Reed, Worthy, Richardson, or Dak and CeeDee Lamb. Wow. Uh, I'd like it better with McLaurin and Ayuk in it. Like I would trade McLaurin and Ayuk for DK Metcalf. So if you're able to replace Metcalf in here with McLaurin, Ayuk, Reed, Worthy, Richardson for Dak and CeeDee Lamb, I would take Dak and CeeDee Lamb in that one. Richardson and Worthy for Dak, and then Lamb for Reed, McLaurin, and Ayuk. Boom. No, I would trade Richardson for Dak. Local liability, 12-team Superflex, PPR, CD or Alec Pearson, 2 firsts. I'm a losing team with older quarterbacks and Darnold. I'm taking CeeDee Lamb in that so easily. CeeDee Lamb is worth more than 2 firsts, and I could care less about Alec Pierce. So I'm taking Lamb in this one. Yeah, if he's a contender and you're not Genji, I would take Dak and CeeDee Lamb in that. I think that makes your team better. Probably makes his team better. So it's a win-win. But from your standpoint, I would rather have Dak and CeeDee Lamb from 2025 on than that whole package of whatever the crap everything else is. I would keep DK Metcalf. If you can keep DK Metcalf as your wide receiver 2 with CeeDee Lamb, I think that's better in the long run. Bada boom. Almost 220. Another long one this week. Last week went really long, but it was fun. Let's see. Yeah, last week was 2 hours and 30 minutes. I think that was the longest AMA for a Friday stream yet. And today we are on pace. Today we've already broken the stream before that as well. Boom. You guys are killing it, man. I appreciate all of you guys coming in and asking questions. But unless there's can I ask which of 2 teams you prefer? Me versus my brother, and I gotta see which side you prefer. Yeah, do it. Little brotherly love. We'll wait it out. Appreciate you, Toronto Dave. Appreciate everyone for coming in and hanging out, asking questions. This really is like one of the highlights of my week for sure, is being able to hang out with everybody for like 2.5 hours and just chill with the community. By the way, I noticed that the poll that was up said that a vast majority of you said that you would appreciate extra content from me if it was free. So that probably means that the extra content won't happen. I don't know if all that work is worth it if it's free. But then a lot of you also said just keep up the YouTube content too. So I'm 100% going to keep up the YouTube content. Trade Coker, Genji. Who cares? Love getting perspectives on my mindset. Yeah, appreciate you, David. All right, so Cody's typing in. He's got him versus his brother. I don't know which team is which, but team 1 is Baker, Gibbs, Achane, JT, Lamb, St. Brown, Wilson, Kelsey, Reed, Hunt. Holy crap. And team 2, Cody, this is these are dynasty teams, right? Team 2 is Burrow, Bijan, CMC, Chase, Jefferson, Metcalf, Andrews, Henry, Hopkins. One quarterback dynasty. All right, can we break this up in any way? Baker versus Burrow, that's Burrow. Gibbs, Achane, JT versus Bijan and CMC. I'll take Gibbs, Achane, and JT on that one. Lamb and St. Brown and Garrett Wilson versus Chase, Jefferson, and Metcalf. I will take Lamb, St. Brown, and Garrett Wilson versus Chase, Jefferson, and Metcalf. I will take the Chase and Jefferson side. Andrews versus Kelsey. I will take Andrews and Dynasty. Reed versus Henry. I want Reed. Hopkins versus Hunt. I think I'll take team 2. I want team 2 on this one. Burrow over Baker. The wide receivers, I think, are better as a group. The running backs, though not as good individually, I don't think, or not as good as a group, I think are better individually. So I would take Bijan over Gibbs, CMC over JT. Achane is really nice in there though too. But I think I want team 2. It's so close, man. I mean, they're both so fantastic. Your running back group is definitely better as a whole. Bijan, CMC, and I'm guessing Derrick Henry versus Gibbs, Achane, and JT. Like, I'd rather have Gibbs, Achane, and JT. Although whenever you include Jaden Reed in with the wide receivers, with Lamb, St. Brown, Wilson, Reed versus Chase, Jefferson, Metcalf, Andrews, and Kelsey is in team 1 too. Oh man, they're both so close. I see now. I feel like I like team 1 more now that I know it's yours. He got Henry and Chase for Olave, Musgrave, and a first. Wow. Burrow for Rich is stupid. Oh man. You both have phenomenal teams. I think we'll definitely put it down to that one. I think for the remainder of the year, I would rather have team 2. From a dynasty standpoint, I think I'd rather have team 1. Because remainder of the year, you like team 2 has like your brother, he has CMC, he's got Chase, Jefferson, whereas you have Lamb. But from a dynasty standpoint, like I don't really want CMC compared to Achane. In dynasty standpoint, he's got Derrick Henry. That's easy versus Jaden Reed, So and you've got Wilson over DK Metcalf. I'd rather have that from a dynasty standpoint. Yeah. So from a dynasty longevity, I will pick you. From a 2024 championship run, I'll take your brother. David put it perfectly. Choosing between a Lambo and a Ferrari. Both fantastic. Just your own personal preference on which engine is in there. What's J.K. Dobbins' value? I'm trying to move him in a couple of leagues. I would love to move him for I'd move him for 2 seconds. I think that's pretty fair value for him. If you can get a first-round pick, I would smash that. But multiple seconds, I think, is where you're at for J.K. Dobbins. Or if you could pivot over to another running back, a la Bucky Irving or Pollard or Rachaad White and something, I think that's where you're at with J.K. Dobbins from a value standpoint. Al, which 2025 rookie quarterback landing spot is the most appealing? Brandon, all right, Brandon's back in. Hold on, we'll get to that in just a second. Al, which 2025 rookie quarterback landing spot is the most appealing? It probably is the Giants because of Malik Neighbors. Genji definitely, I think is pretty close with Vegas as well, because then you got Brock Bowers. The other, I think Giants is probably better too, because then they get Dable instead of whoever the Raiders end up hiring. Cleveland may not be a terrible place, assuming that they go and draft a rookie. The Jets, honestly, like from a team perspective, I think the Jets would be the most appealing if you were to go. You're still in New York, so you still get that market, but instead of just Malik Neighbors that you're throwing to Garrett Wilson and maybe Devontae Adams, but then you also get Breece Hall, and if they can just fix their coaching staff, I think that would be interesting. But I think overall, when you think of talent around him with Malik Neighbors, I think the Giants got that. I think the coaching staff, I think Giants has that with Dable. And Wan'Dale's not bad either. So, and you got Tyrone Tracy is the running game. Yeah, I think it probably is the Giants. Jacksonville, though. All right. Brandon saying valet. Stupid autocorrect. Met Caleb. All right. So nah, Brandon, I love it. We were trying so hard to figure out who Valet was. Contending and traded away Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, a 25 mid and late first, so two of them, for Lamar, AJ Brown, Aaron Jones, and a 25 second. So Lamar over Kyler, pretty easily. Lamar over Kyler in a first. I think we can do that one. So then Caleb for AJ Brown, Aaron Jones in a late second. I don't think that's bad either. I think you did pretty all right with that one, knowing that that's. I mean, it certainly would have been a lot better if that was Devon Vele. If that was Devon Vele in there, that would have been such a smash for the Lamar side. But yes, with Caleb Murray. Why do I keep saying that? Caleb Williams in there. Yes, that's a much better, much fairer trade on both sides of it. I would still take the Lamar side, so I think you did pretty all right on that one, Brandon. That was so funny. We were trying to figure out who Valet was. Valet. Same question for Kareem Hunt's value. I've offered to sell for a second and been declined. Yeah, I think even if it's Kareem Hunt and a third for a second, or if it's like Kareem Hunt and some other player that's kind of similar to Kareem Hunt in terms of like value, like Jalen Coker maybe, or somebody like that, like for a second, I think is how you've got to get to the second round pick with Kareem Hunt. I think him individually probably worth a third or two by himself at this point, maybe now. But yeah, I think you got to add a Kareem Hunt to get the second round pick. Any currently injured guys that you would target for a rebuilder missed the ship on Dak, but sold Nico for Rice in the 102 to 104. Nice. How do you feel about Stephon Diggs, Rashid Shaheed? I wouldn't go after any of those guys as a rebuilder. I mean, if Diggs gets thrown into a deal, then that's fine. But I wouldn't like specifically go out and target Stephon Diggs. I wouldn't target Shaheed as well. I would target Brandon Ayuk. I would also go after Jalen Waddle because he is just so devalued right now because he's not producing. Other injured guys. Nah, Brandon, you're all good, man. I'm glad that you cleared up who Valet was. So I appreciate you. I'm glad that we can get back to that trade for you. But yeah, no, I wouldn't go out and specifically target Diggs or Shaheed. The one specific injury target that I would go after would be Ayuk. I'd even feel a little bit more comfortable targeting Chris Godwin. Godwin's also a free agent this year, like Diggs is. But I feel more comfortable in Godwin either re-signing in Tampa Bay. He's also younger. So maybe he's the old vet that you go after that's currently injured right now. But yeah, Ayuk would be the other one, or Waddle. What would you need to add to Breece Hall to move to Bijan Robinson? You would probably need to add. It'd probably have to be a second round pick to move over to Bijan, and it's probably worth it. Or maybe it's something, some other bench player that could be thrown into a starting lineup, like a DeAndre Hopkins or somebody like that, to kind of move to fill that gap. I don't think I'd pay anything really more than that, though. It'd probably just be better to just keep Breece Hall if the cost is more to fill the gap. But I think that kind of player or pick, a late second or a DeAndre Hopkins-y kind of player, I think would make sense. On the Bucky question earlier, I have Nico, Marv, Amon-Ra, Jason, Kyler, Cousins, Russ, Kelsey, Andrews, D-Hop in fourth place in one of the highest scoring leagues first year, so definitely a contender. So it's probably going to be a late 26 first. So that's also good too. Yeah. I still would rather have the first round pick than Bucky Irving though. But the context I think makes it a little nicer for you. His rest of season schedule is definitely a lot really, really nice. The youth is great too. And yeah, hopefully he does have some long-term value. I agree with you on all of that, but I think I still rather have the first round pick, but it doesn't look as bad. If you have time, I just got a trade offer in my rebuilding league. Receive CeeDee Lamb, give Puka and an early second. I don't think that's worth it. If you think it's 2.01, I don't think that's worth it to move off of Puka. I understand where they're coming from to try to move off of Lamb like that, but I just, at this point, I don't know if it was a late second, maybe, probably, but an early second, like the 2.01, like that's a pretty, valuable pick. So I'd just keep Puka in the second. Sam Darnold and Aaron Jones are off the injury report. Nice. All right. I don't know. Something just like vibrated in here. I don't know what that was. Or maybe that was the street cleaner outside. I don't know. We live across from a graveyard, so I hear weird noises and I immediately think paranormal. Anyway. All right. We've run out of questions and we're at the 2.5 hour mark. So I think that this is where I've got to personally cut it for the my voice in general. But I appreciate everybody for hanging out for the past 2.5 hours. I love doing this every single Friday, and I'm glad that you guys do as well. Appreciate everybody who dropped in super chats. Mustang, Ben, thank you for just the payday or the not the payday super chats. Antonio, Brad, appreciate you so much, man. And yeah, so hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your Friday. Have a fantastic weekend as well too. Watch the college football games, watch the NFL games. Hopefully all of your fantasy matchups win, unless you don't want them to win. You want them to lose because you're rebuilding. But hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your Friday. Fantastic weekend as well. We'll catch you guys next week for week 12. Season's rapidly closing out here shortly. Time's flying right on by. But I appreciate everybody. See you guys next week. Same time, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Peace.